Good morning, everyone. The prayer today will be offered by the wonderful gentleman from Baltimore County.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Y'all ready to go to church?
Yes.
Okay. Prepare for prayer. Heavenly Father, we come to you today with humble hearts, calling on the name that is above every name. Lord, you're the giver of wisdom, the healer of the sick, the provider for every need. We ask that your Spirit sweep through this chamber and through every office represented in the Maryland General Assembly. Father, grant us wisdom from above, not from the wisdom of politics or pride, but from the wisdom that comes from you. Guide every decision, every conversation, every vote. Help us to serve the people of Maryland with integrity, humility, and courage. Lord, we ask you to place a hedge of protection over the health and the strength of every member and every staff person who labors here. Renew our bodies, renew our minds, and give us the endurance to serve faithfully. Today, Father, we especially lift up two of our colleagues who are battling cancer. God, you are the Jehovah Rapha, the Lord who healeth thee. Let your healing power sweep over them right now. Touch every cell in their body, every system. God, strengthen them, comfort their families, and remind them that they're not alone. We declare your peace and your restoration over their lives. Father, we also lift up the people of Maryland who are struggling under the weight of the rising costs. We pray for the families who are worried about their utility bills and trying to make ends meet. Father, we ask that you move upon the hearts of the utility companies. We ask not because we get not, but Lord, we ask you to give them compassion, give them wisdom, that you may show mercy upon the people of recommendation. God, that you will give the constituents by withholding or pausing payments for 2 months and bringing the relief to families who need the breathing room. Let justice roll down like the waters of righteousness, like a mighty stream. Remind us that leadership is not about power, but about serving the people with compassion. Holy Spirit, sweep through this place like a revival fire. Bring unity in there where there's division, clarity where there's confusion, and hope where there's discouragement. And Father, finally we asked everything in your being honored and to your glory, blessing the people of Maryland, we the elected to serve. We give you the praise and the honor. And everybody says, hallelujah. Amen.
Okay. All right then. Quorum call.
Madam Speaker.
Yes. Welcome. Wonderful to see you.
Madam Chair, it works. It works.
Okay then, let's remember this feeling as we vote on these third readers, as we do the work for the next 4 days. Just channel that, please, okay? Anyone in the back? All right. The clerk will call the roll. Has everyone recorded their vote? Wonderful. There being 130 members present, the House is now in session. The clerk will read the journal from the previous day.
Annapolis, Maryland, February 27, 2026.
Recognizing the Deputy Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So much be considered the reading of the journal.
You were so inspired there for a minute. So order, petitions, memorials, and other papers. So, colleagues, we have 3 House resolutions today. We're going to start by recognizing the delegate from Charles County. Let's listen.
Good morning, Madam Speaker and colleagues. Please join the Charles County delegation. Permission to use delegates' names.
Permission granted.
Delegates Davis, Odom, Wilson, myself, in welcoming Harold Fuchs Simmons II and his 8-year-old daughter, Aura V. The duo represents a collaboration of artistry that includes songwriting, producing, composing, and education empowering songs for all ages. In 2017, Fuchs began bringing his artistry into classrooms, writing curriculum-aligned songs that explored racial equity, history, and identity. His work and career...
One second. Let's listen, please.
Thank you.
Thank you.
His work and career have led to him being interviewed on The Today Show, NPR, and The New York Times. In addition, he has become a fixture in family entertainment, composing music for Sesame Street, writing and producing at renowned venues like Carnegie Hall and the Lincoln Center. RV, his daughter, is an honor student at Margaret Thornton Elementary School in White Plains, Maryland, Charles County. She is a music artist and the youngest individual credited Grammy Award winner in history. Earning the honor for Best Children's Album for Harmony. She began making music when she was only 4 years old. RV has been featured on The Today Show, Tamron Hall Show, ABC News, NPR, and more. Please welcome them and acknowledge their historic achievement celebrating joy, culture, and self-love. Blessings.
So if we can hold on a second before coming up here, she's going to honor us with a song, okay?
One, two. Talk about peace, or
Peace, positivity, love and empathy. This is the recipe for life in harmony. Can you imagine what this place would be when our differences were collectively harmony? Life in harmony, together in unity, you and me in harmony. Community, our community, together in unity, you and me, community.
That was beautiful. Would the clerk please read the full resolution?
Be it hereby known to all that the House of Delegates of Maryland offers its sincerest congratulations to Ara V. and Harold Simmons II, Ara and Fuchs, in recognition of your historic win for the collaboration album Harmony and for Ara V. being the youngest Grammy winner in history. The entire membership extends best wishes on this memorable occasion and directs this resolution to be presented on this 11th day of March 2026.
The next resolution will be presented by the delegate and vice chair of the Health Committee from Montgomery County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
I think I was going to
listen.
promise not to sing. I think and say how remarkable the young person is. That was the most beautiful thing. But it sets a good stage for what we're about to do today. While I think I speak for all of the members of the Health Committee, and perhaps all of you, I am personally very honored to be a part of this recognition. In 2017, Governor Hogan made a very wise decision to approve the appointment of the then Chief Operating Officer of the Maryland Health Benefit Exchange to be the new Executive Director. I truly believe that Michelle Eberly is one of his very best hires. Michelle took the helm of the benefit exchange after a rocky start, but she rolled up her sleeves and got to work. Our exchange is now recognized nationally as one of the most effective in the country. Michelle has a strategic approach to work. She skillfully shepherded our reinsurance fund, often reminding us that we don't want it to run out. The Young Adult Subsidy Program was the result of her intensive study of how to improve access to health care in the state. She has spent thousands of hours reaching out to businesses to make sure that they had opportunities to provide health insurance and subsidize health insurance for their employees. She agrees that the small group market and the outreach to smaller businesses, those below 10, more work is needed. And we actually will be voting on a bill that increases that access. I'm not sure if it's today or tomorrow, but it creates a new special enrollment program for people new to a job. And she is now leaving, which I am personally sad about, but she leaves a tremendous legacy. There are now 1 million more Marylanders covered than when she took it that have health insurance than when she took over at the Health Benefit Exchange. But an even better part, besides the fact that she's going to get to go have fun now and relax and do fun things, is that she leaves a team that believes in that legacy, has the strength, organization, and will and commitment to Maryland to continue to do her good work. So, Madam Speaker, I recognize Michelle Eberle.
Congratulations, Michelle, very deserving. Will the clerk please read the full resolution?
Be it hereby known to all that the Maryland General Assembly offers its sincerest congratulations to Michelle Eberle in recognition of your transformative leadership that expanded affordable coverage and advanced equity in the health insurance marketplace. The entire membership extends its best wishes on this memorable occasion and directs this resolution to be presented on this 11th day of March 2026.
The final resolution for the day will be presented by the delegate from Washington County. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
Good morning, colleagues. Throughout 2026, the Boys and Girls Club of Washington County will be observing its 85th anniversary, marking more than 8 decades of service and commitment to youth across Western Maryland. Today, 713 children in Washington and Allegheny County attend one of the 7 sites the club operates, where they participate in nationally recognized programs in areas that closely align with developmental needs of young people. The bigger picture, though, is that since 1941, this organization has served as a safe refuge for the kids who need them most. The Boys and Girls Club of Washington County serves as a crucial resource for families in our community and ensures that both youth and their families are supported through their programming. The recently constructed Boys and Girls Club in Hagerstown is a state-of-the-art facility that enables youth to learn, play, and have a safe space within our community. Please help me and the Washington County delegation in welcoming Amanda Rossin, the Developmental Director, and Christy Bachtel, who is the President of the Board of Directors for the Boys and Girls Club of Washington County.
Will the clerk please read the full resolution?
Be it hereby known to all that the House of Delegates of Maryland offers its sincerest congratulations to Boys and Girls Club of Washington County in recognition of the 85th anniversary of Boys and Girls Club of Washington County providing continued support and opportunities to the youth of Washington County. The entire membership extends best wishes on this memorable occasion and directs this resolution to be presented on this 11th day of March 2026.
You're welcome. Congratulations again. Thank you. Message from the Senate, consent calendar number 14, Senate bills introduced in the House. The clerk will read the first bill and committee assignment.
Senate Bill 108, Chair, Senate Education, Energy, and the Environment Committee, Environment and Transportation.
Recognizing the majority leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
So much be considered the reading of Senate Bill 108, be considered the reading for all the bills on the calendar.
Hearing no objection, the bills are read the first time and referred to the appropriate committees. Report of the Committee on Economic Matters, report number 6. The clerk will read the first bill.
House Bill 306, Vehicle Laws, Manufacturers, and Dealers, Prices Listed on Dealer Website. Jack Fitzgerald Price Transparency Act, favorable.
The question before the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Let's just listen for a second, please. Thank you. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Recognizing the gentleman from Southern Maryland.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome. Good morning.
I do have a question about the title of the bill for the floor leader.
For leader, please rise. Thank you so much.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. So the title of the bill of HB 306 is Vehicle Laws, Manufacturers, and Dealers, Prices Listed on Dealer Websites. Jack Fitzgerald Price Transparency Act. Is that still the title of the bill?
Yes.
Okay. How is it not inappropriate to use the name on a bill of a private business that benefits that business?
The name was chosen because Jack Fitzgerald, who had been a staunch consumer protection advocate for his whole life and a great community leader and a philanthropist, had been advocating for price transparency for decades. It was a shame that we did not pass this bill, or similar version of this bill, before he passed last year. So in honor of his memory, the auto dealership and I sat down together and decided we would advance this bill. They came to a compromise and we decided to advance this bill. Mm-hmm. It's honor of a great community leader and resident, not a private business. He's no longer running the business, obviously.
The Fitzgerald Group, thank you very much, Madam Speaker. The Fitzgerald Group is one of the largest auto dealership groups in the state and in the region. And it is highly inappropriate to name a bill that benefits that group after the founder of the company, because the founder of the company's family still owns the business. You can do what you want, obviously, but just for the purposes of transparency, what would stop us on the next bill for doing the same thing on any subject matter that we wanted, naming it after a private business that benefits from that? Literally, we are responsible for filling out our own ethics reports to make sure that we don't do this. And so this literally is a violation of everything this General Assembly stands for. So all I'm asking I'm almost finished.
1 second, 1 minute.
All I'm asking, Madam Speaker, is that we just delete the Jack Fitzgerald Price Transparency Act from the title. I think that's a reasonable request, and it's the appropriate request given the status.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're
Just
welcome.
to clarify, this is to honor an individual who has made tremendous contributions to the community and fighting for consumer rights, not to name this bill after a business. And just to be clear, the Fitzgerald Auto Mall is an employee-owned company. Thank you.
Yeah, so that has nothing to do with what I just said. The Fitzgerald family still controls the business. The bill is named after the group, and I do think it's appropriate to remove that. This is just, look, this is a simple house cleaning matter. I only saw this, Madam Speaker, this morning.
Do
Okay?
you have an amendment?
I don't. I would be happy to special order it and do that and work with the sponsor if you want, but I think that it would just make sense. It's a very bad look to have, yeah.
Recognizing the gentleman from Montgomery County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I think it's important for the body to understand that this is not owned by the Fitzgerald family in any way. It is now, as of 2023, 100% employee owned. 100%. It's been that way for going on 3 years now. This is not owned by the Fitzgerald family in any way whatsoever. Thank you.
And so what you're saying then is that it's still okay for a private business to celebrate the name in the title of the private business. It doesn't matter who owns it. And what you're saying is it's okay provided that it's a socialization of a company. That makes it even worse because you're providing preference to that particular company. So yes, Madam Speaker, I would very much like to special order this bill. I think this is an easy fix. Remove it from the title. It's the right thing to do. Under no circumstances should there ever be the name of a private company in a bill that comes out of this legislature.
Recognizing the floor leader.
I don't see any need to politicize this issue. This is not socialization of anything. And for that matter, I don't see any need to accept this special order.
So the question before the House is to special order House Bill 306. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The noes have it. We will do the roll
Madam
call.
Speaker,
We're doing the roll call, okay?
Madam Speaker.
It's okay, let's do the roll call, all right?
Hey, Mark,
You can explain your vote once we do the roll call, okay?
I was asking for clarification on the rules as far as being able to special order the bill in the first 65 days of session.
We have, hold on one second. We can special order the bill, but we have to take the roll call. Those are the rules. Let me take the roll call, and then you can, we can deal with it, okay? Roll call, let's go ahead.
Madam Speaker?
Okay. Will the clerk take the call? There being 95 votes in the negative and 38 votes in the green, the motion fails. Okay?
Madam
Are there any
Speaker.
other amendments to the bill as to its title? Yes, recognizing the delegate from Baltimore County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Because I agree with my colleague from Calvert County, I would request a layover, which is allowable during the first 65 calendar days for 1 day.
Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker. Point of procedure.
Lay it over, you need a pending amendment. All right? That's it? We're done, the bill. Good, let's go to the next bill. Okay. So the bill is order printed for third reading because we do not have a motion pending, to be clear. Hearing none, the bill is order printed for third reading, please. Okay? The clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 461, Economic Development, Rural Readiness Program, and Rural Maryland Capacity Building Fund Establishment. Favorable.
Let's listen. The question before the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Hearing none, the bill is order printed for third reading. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
House Bill 573, Fair Housing and Housing Discrimination Regulations, Intent and Discriminatory Effect, favorable.
The question before the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Hearing none, the bill is order printed for third reading. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
House Bill 691, State Government Procedures Permitting Efficiency for Housing Development Projects, favorable.
The question before the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Recognizing the minority leader.
Thank you, Madam
You're
Speaker.
welcome.
Would the floor leader of the committee consider, we just went through this process, a special order on this bill for purposes of possible amendment tomorrow? Is it there? There we go. Thank you. Thank you. Good morning,
One
Madam Chair.
second. Recognizing the chair of the committee and the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
Good morning. Would you consider a possible special order for potential amendment? I like a lot of things in the bill, quite frankly, but I did see some of the comments by industry and MACO that I'd like to have an opportunity to take more of a look at for purposes of possible amendment to the bill tomorrow.
Well, let me first start by saying that MACO has no position.
I know. I read their letter of information.
Okay. All right. I'll allow that.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Move to special order till the appropriate time tomorrow, Madam Speaker.
So the question before the House is to special order House Bill 691. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill number 691 has been special ordered until the appropriate time tomorrow. If you have any questions or concerns about that bill, make sure to work with the committee, okay? Thank you. Will the clerk please read the next bill?
House Bill 798, Economic Development, Small Minority and Women-Owned Business Accounts, Management Fees, Small Business Increased Access to Capital Act, favorable.
The question before the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Hearing none, the bill is order printed for third reading. Please read the next bill.
House Bill 850, Home Builders Open House Sales Representative Disclosure Requirements, favorable.
The question before the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Hearing none, the bill is order printed for third reading. Please read the next bill.
House Bill 951, Real Property Recordation and Land Records Revisions, favorable.
The question before the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Hearing none, the bill is order printed for third reading. Please read the next bill.
House Bill 996, Corporations and Associations Revisions, favorable.
The question before the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Hearing none, the bill is order printed for third reading. Please read the next bill.
House Bill 1026, Business Regulation, Rounding Cash Transactions Authorization, favorable.
The question before the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Hearing none, the bill is order printed for third reading. Please read the next bill.
House Bill 1312, Legal Tender Specie Establishment, favorable.
The question before the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Hearing none, the bill is order printed for third reading. Report of the Committee on Economic Matters. Report number 7. The clerk will read the first bill.
House Bill 243, Land Use Comprehensive and General Plans, Alteration of Elements, favorable amendments, amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader, the gentleman from Baltimore County.
So must be considered reading of the amendment.
So order.
Amendment number 1, alter the list of facilities that local jurisdiction may include in the community facilities sub-element of the land element and makes various other technical and corrective changes. Amendment number 2 clarifies that the bill applies prospectively and does not affect comprehensive planning processes started for completed before the bill's effective date. Move the amendment, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The question before the House is the adoption of the amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The amendment is adopted. The question now is the adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill as to its title? Recognizing the gentleman from Baltimore County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
Could the floor leader please rise and tell me what this bill does exactly?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Speaker. This bill modernizes and restructure Maryland comprehensive plan requirement for charter counties, that is Home Rule Authority, and other local jurisdictions, the tying plans to the state planning principles.
Could you give me an example of that? Because I'm not quite following you. So it's modernizing the plat. Am I correct? Plats?
Yes. So is actually with this new bill replaces the old list of plan elements with 8 required elements like the land, transportation, housing, economy, equity, the resilience in place and ecology. So to have the parity across the jurisdiction, the department will guide, and department wants local jurisdiction follow this principle. As amended, this department bill, this is the departmental bill, it modifies and reorganizes those elements that a local jurisdiction must include in comprehensive or general plan, so that the elements are consistent with planning principle.
All right. The question I have for you is, in Baltimore County, if you want to do a subdivision, minor or, well, on a major subdivision, you have to go through the DRC, Development Review Committee. Will this have any effect on that?
No, it doesn't change that. But they need to follow this, that replace the old list, and this is across the jurisdiction. It's the same standard.
So all these questions will have to be answered before the plat, before recordation of the plat?
Yes.
Okay,
Department will guide the local.
So the so the engineers will have to come up with all these different answers as far as planning for, I think you said something about transportation, am I correct?
Yes. Like, let me give you the example, transportation, right? When their local jurisdiction are doing the planning, they should prioritize transportation network that create energy efficient, affordable and reliable access to jobs, housing, and services, right? In the same way, when you're talking about the housing, it has to enable a mix of quality housing types and affordability options to accommodate all who want to live in the state. These are the planning principles that they need to follow.
Okay, last question. I'm going to try to take one more bite of this apple. If you're doing a plat subdivision and you cannot meet all these requirements, is there a waiver as far as getting some of these answers? Some of the questions you're asking might be difficult to address.
It is just for a comprehensive plan, not for individual one.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Speaker.
Yes, recognizing
here, Madam
the
Speaker.
gentleman from Baltimore County.
Good morning, Madam Speaker.
Good
I'm sorry
morning.
I forgot to bring those chocolates today, but I will next week. I promise.
I'm waiting for it.
Yes, ma'am.
But your seatmate did quite well.
Okay. A question for the floor leader, Madam Speaker.
Sure.
Yes.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
I do have a question. I'm just trying to quickly scroll back to it. So I'm looking at something that it looks like we have taken out of this planning process. So it looks to me, I'm at like number 24. Looks like water resources was in the plan, and we have now taken that out, and we've inserted an equity element. What does that mean, and why do we feel that we shouldn't be looking at water resources anymore?
I mean, yeah, it addresses by the ecology elements. And when we talk about the equity, definitely it is very important. Delegate, it engage all sector of community, in plan development to ensure diverse voices are heard and the needs of underserved population, and that makes the priority. And this element addresses that, water.
Where does it address water? I'm sorry. It looks like it's bracketed, taking it out. So I'm just trying to see where.
Ecology elements, that is, protect and restore sensitive ecological system and conserve natural resources, including forest, agriculture areas, and waterways. That addresses
Okay, so
your concern.
that's waterways, but when I'm thinking about water resources, are we also addressing inside of this water systems, drinking water, wastewater, those kinds of systems?
That's correct.
Okay.
That's in there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, seeing no other questions, the bill is order printed for third reading. Would the clerk be so kind and read the next bill?
House Bill 343, Housing Development Projects, Housing Counseling Services. Favor the amendments. Amendment number one.
Speaker. Recognizing the delegate from Baltimore City and the floor leader.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. Move so much be considered the reading of the amendments.
So order.
Amendment number 1 is technical. Amendment number 2 limits the scope of the bill to single-family home ownership projects that are funded by specified DHCD programs, requires funding recipients to provide information about housing counseling services rather than offer the services, and alters the amount of the mandatory appropriation from $200,000 to $90,000. Move the amendments.
The question before the House is the adoption of the amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The amendment is adopted. The question now is the adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill as to its title? Hearing none, the bill is order printed for third reading. Will the clerk please read the next bill?
House Bill 483, Business Regulation, Charitable Organizations, Audit and Review Thresholds. Favor the amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Move so much to be considered the reading of the amendments.
So order.
The amendments make adjustments to certain amounts for inflation. Move the amendments.
The question before the House is the adoption of the amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The amendment is adopted. The question now is the adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill as to its title? Hearing none, the bill is order printed for third reading. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
House Bill 523, Real Property Residential Foreclosures, Commencement Restrictions. Favor the amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing again the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam
welcome.
Speaker. Move so much be considered the reading of the amendments.
So order.
The amendment alters the 10-year foreclosure filing limitation from the claimed date of default to the date of the last payment. Move the amendment.
The question before the House is the adoption of the amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The amendment is adopted. The question now is the adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill as to its title? Recognizing the gentleman from Baltimore County.
Thank you. I think I owe you a box of chocolates after this. Will this address?
You do.
Thank you. Will this address ghost mortgages?
Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're
this
welcome.
is the zombie mortgage issue. Yes.
I'm sorry. Can you repeat that?
This is the zombie mortgage issue. I think is that what you meant?
Yes,
Yes.
the ones that are actually no one knows about that comes up back.
And people are.
So this will protect them? Is that what this is? This?
Madam Speaker,
Yes.
This bill protects residents from losing their homes when zombie mortgages that they were not aware of come back and try to foreclose on them.
Okay, because I know that a lot of loans were forgiven and they're coming back 10 years, 12 years later and they're foreclosing on the properties. So this will protect the homeowner. Would they have to repay the money that they actually got, or how would that work?
Madam Speaker?
Yes.
So the way the bill works is that right now what's been happening is with no engagement with the homeowner. I think it sounds like you're very familiar with this
Yes.
issue. With no engagement with the homeowner, these mortgage companies, or actually not even so much the mortgage companies, but the companies who have purchased the debt from the mortgage companies
aware.
are able to wait without engaging with the homeowner, wait until the value of the house has increased, with a homeowner thinking that all of their debt has been forgiven or paid off, and then they come in with huge sums of money that are owed in a very short period to begin the foreclosure process. So what this bill does is it doesn't forgive that money, but it adds into law protections against foreclosure specifically by adding a 10-year statute of limitations and by adding additional requirements that are consistent with our current foreclosure protections for those companies that have purchased mortgages that were already 5 years in arrears.
I guess the question I have is, if a mortgage is 5 years behind and the homeowner's not really aware, because during the mortgage crisis, a lot of things happen, as I'm sure everyone's aware. They were getting what we call ghost loans. I call them ghost loans. You call them
Zombie, because they thought they were dead and they came back, yeah.
So my question is, what would happen after 5 years? Do they have to notify the owner of the property that they have accruing interest and they still owe money, or is there any regulations regulating that?
Yeah, so there's a 10-year statute of limitations. So if they haven't taken action 10 years,
after 10 years, you're done.
They can't foreclose.
Right, well, I'm sure they'll go for that.
But the bigger issue, and where we're seeing this play out much more, is that you see these private equity firms or debt buyers seeing that someone's been in default for 5 years, then buying it up for the sole purpose of coming and acquiring that house. And what this bill does is it takes all the foreclosure rules that this body put in place after the 2008 housing crisis and says those rules apply to someone in that scenario trying to take that home. So it doesn't mean that we're wiping away the debt. It just means that that homeowner is protected from that foreclosure, and the person who now owns that debt has to prove that they own the debt, show the chain of the.
1 minute. Can we please keep our conversation down? Thank you.
We can
Go
have
ahead.
a conversation offline.
No,
I'm very familiar with it. I'm glad to see we're trying to do something with it, because a lot of this is happening, and I feel sorry for somebody that thought their loans were paid off and come back, and there you go.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, and thank you for your vote on this bill last year, because in fact it passed the House unanimously last year. So clearly the entire body agreed with you last year, and I hope they agree with you again this year when we take the vote tomorrow.
Hey, we got to protect our homeowners. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Wonderful. Any other additional amendments or questions on the bill? Seeing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Okay. Special order calendar, House Bill 10. The clerk will read the bill.
House Bill 10, legal advertisement or legal notice, publication in newspaper or newspaper in general circulation, digital newspaper. Favor report is amended and adopted.
Recognizing the maker of the motion, the delegate from Baltimore County. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're
All my
welcome.
questions have been answered.
Thank you. Are there any additional amendments to the bill as to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Special order calendar, House Bill 428. The clerk will read the bill.
House Bill 428, court's former judge, temporary assignment. Favor report adopted.
Recognizing the maker of the motion, the minority whip.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
I have an amendment at the desk. Amendment number 6632261.
Amendment number 1.
And I actually had a very productive conversation with the chair of the committee, if she wouldn't mind rising, and maybe I can get some clarification, and the amendment may not be necessary. But
Will the chair rise? Thank you so much. Good morning.
Thank you. Good morning, Madam Speaker.
So I appreciate the conversations. So I have a couple questions, and hopefully this answers. So does Maryland, the Constitution's Article 4, Section 5, does that require circuit court judges to run for election?
That is correct.
Okay. Currently in law, does a circuit court judge have to actually run in an election to be eligible to be a senior status judge?
Yes, they have to have been elected at least once.
Okay. Currently, I'm not referring to your bill.
Oh, I'm sorry. Referring to my bill, they have to be elected at least once. With respect to the law, there is that loophole that you're going to discuss.
I am. So everybody's clear. So I'll rephrase. So without your bill, are circuit court judges now eligible, even though they never run for election, they never win an election, are they currently technically eligible to serve as a senior judge, having never run in an election currently without your bill?
Thank you. Just one moment, please. I want to get your clarification. That is correct.
Okay. All right. So just for the body's understanding and just why I even rose today is that I have what I think uncovered is quite a loophole where the Constitution in Maryland requires circuit court judges to run for office and to win. Yet, there is no requirement for a circuit court judge who's appointed by the governor who happens to sit for 2 years. They are technically then eligible to be a senior status judge, having never run for office. I mean, I guess they could just not file, and so my amendment would require that they actually run for office, but it's my understanding the chair's bill, that there's a provision of your bill that you believe will address that loophole, saying that they would had to have at least run for one office and won at least once. Is that correct?
That is correct, and that is the purpose of the bill.
All right, so for the legislative record, currently, circuit court judges in Maryland are not required to run for office to be eligible for senior status. However, with this bill, that would change that to where now they actually have to run and at least win at least once to be eligible for senior status. Is that correct?
That is absolutely correct. You have to have at least one election.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Madam Speaker, with that record, I will withdraw my amendment, and if anyone else has any other questions, I'm good to go. Thank you.
Thank you so much for working it out. Really appreciate it. So without objection, the amendment is withdrawn. Thank you for working it out. Any additional amendments to the bill as to its title? Hearing none, the bill is order printed for third reading. Special order calendar, House Bill 437. The clerk will read the bill.
House Bill 437, Transportation Major Highway Capacity Expansion Projects and Impact Assessments, Transportation and Climate Alignment Act of 2026. Favorite board is amended and adopted.
Recognizing the maker of the motion, the gentleman from Anne Arundel County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're
I got an
welcome.
amendment at the desk. Amendment number 19321.
Amendment number 1.
Move so much to be considered the reading of the amendment.
So order.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
This amendment converts this bill's mandatory greenhouse gas offset requirement into a reporting requirement. It requires the Department of Transportation to report estimated emissions from a project, requires the department to identify feasible mitigation options. It removes the net zero mandate that can only delay or block highway projects, and ensures transparency and informed decision-making before creating another large unfunded mandate similar to policies contributing to Maryland's current energy policy challenges. Before I go on, can I get the floor leader to rise for a couple questions?
Will the floor leader please rise and let's listen, please? Go ahead.
Madam Speaker.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning. Good to see you.
Likewise.
If this bill requires highway projects to be net zero emissions, how does the state plan to build roads using materials like concrete, steel, and asphalt, some of the largest sources of industrial CO2? And if that can't realistically be achieved, doesn't this effectively become a veto on highway construction?
Thank you for the question. I appreciate that. It's a very good one. Let me just be clear what this bill requires. It requires MDOT, the Department of Transportation, to do an impact assessment on the highway projects, right? So the idea here is the cars that are going to be driving on that expansion. It does not require them to include life cycle emissions in the overall analysis. And that's what you're talking about. That's the asphalt, that's the concrete. Now, to be clear, there are products that are being used in these highway projects around the country that are much more friendly for the environment. So we could use products in the asphalt and concrete that are more friendly for the environment and wouldn't by themselves increase the emissions. But the focus of this bill and what it is directing MDOT to do is to look at what the project will be once it is built. What kinds of increased vehicle demand will be on those roads, induced demand. That is the focus of the bill itself.
And I appreciate that. And when we talk about, looking at what it does to the environment, I'm assuming we're talking about greenhouse gas emissions.
That is correct.
Yeah, so when we're talking about greenhouse gas emissions, nitrogen and oxygen together make up 99% of the atmosphere. Carbon dioxide makes up 0.04% of the atmosphere. That's what we are always trying to fight. Many other gases exist only in trace amounts. Water vapor makes up between 0 and 4%. It's actually the largest natural greenhouse gas. Each person in this room exhales roughly 2 pounds of CO2 every year. Are we concerned about the 99.6% of greenhouse gas emissions that are water vapor, nitrogen, oxygen, or should we just stop breathing?
Well, I think the answer to that question is easy. Hopefully no one in this room stops breathing anytime soon. But let's just be clear about what this bill is intended to do, and ideally we get to the amendment at some time in the near future. But the focus of this bill is on reducing greenhouse gas emissions, which is something that everybody in this room should be looking to do for the betterment of all of our constituents. And the transportation sector is the biggest emitter of greenhouse gas emissions. So if we as a body care about reducing greenhouse gas emissions, which every one of us should because it'll improve the air quality for our constituents, this bill is focused on doing that. And that's probably why this bill, as it is, passed the House a year ago in bipartisan fashion. So clearly this is a policy that this House cares about, and I would urge us to vote for it again, but I'm happy to address the amendments.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And when I get to my amendments, I'll address several of the things you said there. But one of the things that is important is where in the bill is the funding source for all these required offset projects?
So if this bill is implemented correctly, there's a significant likelihood that we will see a cost savings as a result. So let me explain that to you, okay? And I think it's probably helpful to have like a little bit of context here, because I appreciate your questions. They're clearly thoughtful, and I want to address them. Right now, okay, we have a $22 billion CTP, Consolidated Transportation Program, in the state of Maryland. That is our capital investment using taxpayer dollars. For an investment of that size and magnitude, Maryland taxpayers should be seeing a real return on that investment, I would think in 4 categories, okay? We should be reducing congestion. We should be improving safety. We should be lowering costs for everyday Marylanders, and we should be reducing greenhouse gas emissions. In that first category, the State Highway Administration has a goal of no more than 202 million hours of combined delay on our roads every year. We exceed that number every year, unfortunately. In terms of safety, we have a Vision Zero goal, which is intended to get us to 0 fatalities or significant injuries on our roadways by 2030. Unfortunately, every year we have approximately 500 to 600 deaths on our roadways, which, putting aside the significant toll that takes on the families of those lost loved ones, it costs the state an estimated $8 billion. And when it comes to costs, transportation is the second highest household cost for Maryland families. And for our friends in Western Maryland, Washington, Allegheny, Garrett County, it is the highest cost. And we are not currently reducing greenhouse gas emissions. So for that $22 billion investment that we make in the transportation program, our constituents are not getting the requisite return on investment. So what this bill aims to do is focus specifically on those few projects, the mega highway capacity expansion projects that are extremely expensive to build and extremely expensive to maintain and are not actually reducing congestion. And it says, let's drill down on those projects early enough in the planning phase so that we can plan those projects better to actually move people from point A to point B and not just cars from point A to point B. So that's what this bill is focused on, and in so doing, it will make improvements in all 4 categories. And by the way, I know we're sometimes concerned about being the first out in something on this chamber. We're not the first. There's been successes on this in other places. For example, in Minnesota, there was a mega highway capacity expansion project contemplated on I-94. That project was then focused on based on the requirements of this bill, which is very similar. That project wasn't canceled, which I know is a concern for some. It was modified. And instead of simply expanding the highway lanes, they realized that they could hit the same travel demand, move the same people from point A to point B through a combination of managed express lanes and bus rapid transit. And in so doing, saved taxpayers $30 to $60 million per year based on the maintenance that they would not have to do on those expressways and the impact that it will have on small businesses to move people in a positive way. So that's why when you look at the fiscal note for this bill, it does not say, outside of the $50,000 or so a year it's going to cost to staff the role of the impact assessments, it does not say this bill is going to cost Marylanders X amount additional per year, and that's why we would need a funding source, as you point out, because it is just as likely that if this is implemented correctly, this bill would result in cost savings for Marylanders, which I think all of us would agree is one of the primary things we need to be focusing on in this chamber. And again, that's probably why this bill was voted favorably out of the House in bipartisan fashion just 1 year ago.
And I appreciate those comments. As a matter of fact, 75% of what you said actually aligns with the Freedom Caucus, freer, safer, more affordable Maryland. So we just disagree on how we're going to get there. But you're just talking about this assessment, what they did in Minnesota. So do we have any projects in the state of Maryland that could actually pass this test or these assessments that we have right now that are going on right now?
Right, so that's a great question, because the way that this bill is focused, as I said, it is prospective, right? This is a change to the status quo of how we plan future projects in the state of Maryland, because the status quo is not working for us. But because this is a significant change, we wanted to make it such that it is forward-looking for future projects. So the idea is those future projects, as they're being planned by local MPOs and local governments and being submitted to MDOT for support and funding, then those projects will be able to align with the goals of this bill. There are tons of projects around the state right now that would absolutely align with the goals of this bill. And by the way, it would lift them up to the levels of getting more priority. There are projects to improve sidewalks, to do pedestrian access, to do bike lanes, to do bus rapid transit, to do more locally operated transit systems around the state, in Western Maryland, in the Eastern Shore. There are projects all around the state that would be lifted up and be more likely to get funding as a result of this bill that would benefit all of our local communities, our main streets. So there are a lot of projects that would be benefited. But of the major ones that would trigger the impact assessment, the intent is for it to be looking at future projects.
I got you. Thank you for answering the question. I understand your point that we should have more people walking in on bike paths and whatever else we just named there. I just have this deep fear that it's going to cause more congestion, which actually is anti-productive of what you're trying to achieve, because then we have more cars sitting on a highway. But I appreciate that, and thank you for answering the questions, and I'll get to the amendment now.
Let me just address that one point, though, because it is an excellent point, okay? The way that we have been planning our highway projects to date, and by the way, this is administrations with an R and a D in front of their name, okay, have been saying, and this is, would be intuitive to human nature, which is, hey, we have people driving on this road, there's a bottleneck, there's congestion. If we just add lanes, it will reduce the congestion. But because of the interplay between the laws of physics and human nature, what we have seen around the country and in Maryland and around the world is that does not work. So if the goal is to reduce congestion, adding lane miles will not achieve that goal. What it will do is drive up expenses for everyday Marylanders who have to pay more for the maintenance and the gas and the insurance for the car that they drive on these added lane miles, and increase the cost of the CTP, because the amount that it costs to build and then maintain these roads is massive, but it will not reduce congestion. So I agree with you. If our shared goal is reducing congestion for our constituents, which is one of the top goals that we should have, this bill is designed to do exactly that, and it has been successful already in other places.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Colleagues, this bill crosses a dangerous line. It goes far beyond studying emissions and reporting impact. It effectively creates a climate test veto on highway construction in Maryland. That's why the greenhouse gas emission test is in there. Before imposing sweeping mandates that could halt critical infrastructure projects, we should step back and ask a fundamental question. Are we basing this policy on settled science and clear public benefit, or are we building policy on assumptions that deserve much closer scrutiny? When we look at the long-term global data, several things stand out about greenhouse gas initiatives. First, humans' well-being has dramatically improved during the very same period the CO2 emission has increased. Global life expectancy has actually doubled in the last 100 years. I know because my St. Mary's friend is no longer allowed to bring props, I wanted to bring a couple graphs. This is our life expectancy. It is doubled. Look at that graph. People are living longer. They're saying we're going to live to be 100, your kids, the generation of 20 to 30, are going to live to be 100 and some years old. And we're basing policy to get rid of that. Food production and crop yields have increased dramatically worldwide, allowing billions more people to be fed. Do we wish to reverse that trend? And deaths from weather-related disasters have declined sharply over the last century, even as population has grown. Do we wish to reverse that trend? Those are not political talking points. Those are long-term global data. Second, when we talk about climate consensus, we should be very careful about what that actually means. I hear it all the time. Here's what the global consensus was from the IPCC. There were 11,944 scientists involved. Only 4,014 of them wanted to look at whether or not man-made global warming was real. 3,996 of the 4,000, 97%, that's where the number comes from, say humans play a minor role or up to a major role, but only 64 of 4,000 say humans cause 50% or more of the global warming or greenhouse gas initiative damage. That's 64 people of 11,000. That's less than 1%. So there is no global consensus, I'm sorry. But we seem to be hell-bent in this body on impoverishing people, bankrupting the state. Go home and ask your colleagues, what's number one on their issues? What concerns them most? Guess what greenhouse gas initiatives or greenhouse gas emission is? Probably doesn't even come up. They want to know how they're going to pay their bills, how they're going to get their kids to school. And bills like this that focus on greenhouse gas do nothing but further damage. The vast majority did not address the question. The vast majority of greenhouse gas stuff does not address the major question. If we are going to impose sweeping mandates that could stop transportation projects and increase costs for Maryland families, shouldn't we absolutely be certain about the assumptions behind those mandates? Because the bill before us does not simply ask for information, which I'm asking for, it requires the state to offset emissions from highway expansion projects until the net impact is zero or negative. That is impossible to do, and it hasn't been done anywhere in the world. If that cannot be achieved, the project can be deferred or effectively stopped. I think that's what the goal is here. This is not just environmental analysis. This is a policy veto over infrastructure. And we should be very careful before we adopt policies that raise costs for taxpayers, delay transportation improvements, increase congestion, and potentially hurt working families, all based on projections that still contain significant scientific debate and uncertainty. The amendment restores transparency and accountability for working families. This amendment allows policymakers and the public to see the data before imposing major costs. It prevents Maryland from launching another large regulatory experiment without clear evidence. Under this bill as written, if a highway project cannot achieve net state zero or negative emission, it can be deferred or stopped. That'll stop everything. They're asking for less time. Our constituents are asking for affordability, less time stuck in traffic, safer highways, which was alluded to, infrastructure that keeps up with population growth, and a transportation system that actually moves people and goods. Instead, this bill says that before we build a road, the state must somehow offset every single greenhouse gas emission that the road might produce. How? By funding unrelated programs land use changes, transit investments, telecommunication initiatives, and a whole list of policies that have nothing to do with the road itself. And if this state can't pull off that bureaucratic balancing act, the road doesn't get built. That means more congestion. That means more wasted time in traffic. That means more frustration for working families, and ironically, more emissions for cars sitting on a clogged highway. My amendment offers a far more reasonable approach. Instead of forcing the state to meet an arbitrary net zero emissions mandate, we simply require the department to report the emissions and identify feasible mitigation options. That's transparency. That's accountability, and that allows policymakers to make informed decisions. This amendment does not eliminate environmental review. It doesn't stop mitigation. It simply prevents Maryland from tying its own hands with a policy that could block critical highway improvement across the state. Marylanders want clean air, but they also want roads that work. They want government that balances environmental goals with economic reality, not policies that paralyze progress. With that, this amendment restores the balance. Colleagues, I ask and urge for a favorable vote.
The question before the House is the adoption of the amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. Roll call. The clerk will call the roll. Anyone in the back? Give them a second. Has everyone recorded their vote? The clerk will take the call. There being 98 votes in the negative, the amendment fails. Are there any additional amendments to the bill as to its title? Recognizing the gentleman from Anne Arundel.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
I'll make this one faster.
Okay.
I have an amendment at the desk.
1 minute? I'm just kidding.
623325.
Amendment number 1.
Move so much to be considered the reading of the amendment.
So order.
This amendment is about restoring balance and common sense for transportation policy in Maryland. Right now, the bill before us gives a climate assessment the power to effectively delay or stop a highway project if certain emission calculations are not met. This amendment makes a critical correction. The climate assessment can still be conducted. The data can still be reported. Policymakers and the public can still see the environmental impact, but it cannot be used as a regulatory tool to delay or block infrastructure projects that our state desperately needs, because transportation policy should ultimately be about one thing: moving people and goods safely and efficiently. This amendment reinforces that by clearly stating that the Department of Transportation should prioritize congestion relief, safety improvements, efficient movement of people and goods. Let's think about what that means to people we represent every day here in Maryland, sitting in traffic for hours, wasting time with their family, wasting time in a car with their families, burning fuel with stuck in congestion, and dealing with dangerous road conditions or aging infrastructure. Those are real-world problems, and our transportation department must solve. And yet, under the current structure of this bill, a highway project that improves safety, reduces congestion, and supports economic growth could still be delayed. This bill instead reinforces the purpose of the transportation policy to be safer roads, less congestion, a stronger economy, and a transportation system that actually works. This amendment keeps the information but removes the regulatory handcuffs. Our constituents don't want reports that stop roads. They want roads that stop congestion. This amendment makes that clear, and I respectfully ask for a favorable vote.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Putting aside that I think my colleague might have been reading from the wrong amendment, I'm happy to address the one that he just raised. At the end of the day, what he just described is an amendment that would completely strip the notion of greenhouse gases from this bill. And greenhouse gases are central to this bill because that is part of what we are trying to do here, which is in addition to reducing congestion, lowering costs, and improving safety, we must reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and the transportation sector is the #1 emitter. That's why this bill is so focused and targeted on that, and that's why I would urge my colleagues to reject this amendment.
The question before the House is the adoption of the amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. Roll call. The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? The clerk will take the call. There being 98 votes in the negative, the amendment fails. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Recognizing the gentleman from Anne Arundel.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I appreciate your indulgence. I have an amendment at the desk. Amendment number 743121.
Amendment number 1.
This amendment ensures that critical safety and emergency infrastructure projects cannot be delayed by climate assessment, and it reinforces transportation policy on mobility, safety, and economic resilience. It exempts safety and emergency infrastructure project from the bill's requirement. It protects projects involving traffic safety, evacuation routes, bridge or tunnel replacement, freight mobility, and military access. And it adds clearer language requiring the department to prioritize congestion relief, safety improvements, and efficient movement of our Marylanders. This amendment is about something very simple: ensuring the critical safety and emergency infrastructure in Maryland is never delayed by regulatory mandates. The bill before us imposes a series of climate impact requirements on highway expansion projects. While transportation and environmental review are important, we must ensure that those requirements never interfere with projects that are essential for public safety, emergency response, and national security. This amendment creates a clear exemption for projects whose purpose is traffic safety improvement, emergency evacuation, bridge or tunnel replacement, freight mobility and port access, access to military installation, and national defense infrastructure. And that exemption matters deeply for our state. Maryland sits directly on the nation's capital, where we are home to the major military installations, critical federal infrastructure, one of the most important port systems in the East Coast, and transportation networks that are vital not just to Maryland, but to the entire country. Infrastructure delays here don't just affect our state, they affect national security, emergency preparedness, and interstate commerce. And we should all never forget what we experienced just 2 years ago with the Key Bridge disaster. When that bridge collapsed, it was a stark reminder of how critical our infrastructure really is and how much we're still dealing with it today. Lives were lost, commerce was disrupted, and one of the busiest shipping corridors on the East Coast was suddenly cut off. In that moment, Maryland didn't need climate models. We needed action. Safety and emergency. Infrastructure should never be slowed down when lives and commerce depend on it. Safety must come first. Emergency preparedness must come first. Infrastructure resilience must come first. That is why this amendment ensures that we do not put that in danger. With that, I wish to have a favorable vote on this amendment. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome. Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Colleagues,
You're
to be
welcome.
brief, just so that we are clear, the impact assessment tool in this bill will not result in any delay. It is an extremely quick process that the folks at MDOT can do, and by the way, already do. MDOT is already implementing the governor's executive order that requires these kinds of impact assessment tools. What this bill will do is codify that in statute with fidelity. So it will not result, the impact assessment will not result in any delay. Secondly, this is another attempt to have the exception swallow the rule. Recall that this bill does not impact system preservation, maintenance, safety on our roads. This bill is about the mega highway expansion capacity projects. And if we vote for this amendment, it will allow this exception that he's trying to create, my colleague is trying to create, to swallow up the entire policy that we're trying to create here. I'd urge the body to vote no on this amendment.
Recognizing the gentleman from Southern Maryland.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
I stand to support my colleague's amendment here. And what I've learned from this debate has been fascinating. We spend $22 billion, apparently, on infrastructure and road projects with limited return on investment. And I agree with the floor leader. We have a limited return on investment. But now we're hearing the excuse that adding extra lanes and doing these big projects doesn't really help with traffic because we need to comply with the Maryland Climate Pollution Reduction Plan, which has to deal with driving less. So every time we're promised one of these green plans that's going to save us money and make things better, I'm a little skeptical. Because right now we're concerned about traffic capacity and we're tying it to our Climate Alignment Act. Every time we're promised this, things tend to not get cheaper. they get more expensive. And I'll give you a great example for it. We were told that if we closed down coal-fired electric plants, the air would be cleaner. I'm telling you, we used to have 2 of these plants in Southern Maryland. I don't notice the air any cleaner, but I do notice my electric bill skyrocketing. I would like for my constituents to get to point A and point B using their car, broadening their freedoms in this state, and I stand to support this gentleman's amendment. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The question before the House is the adoption of the amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. Roll call.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? The clerk will take the call. There being 95 votes in the negative, the amendment fails. Are there any additional amendments to the bill as to its title, recognizing the minority whip?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I have an amendment at the desk. Amendment number 693-2261.
Amendment number 1.
And if I could ask the floor leader just a brief question in advance.
Floor leader.
The amendment.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you.
So it's my understanding that this bill excludes a few projects. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And what are the 3 projects?
It's not 3 projects, 3 categories. So the categories, if you look at page 3, lines 15 through 20 of the bill, says this subtitle does not apply to a major highway capacity expansion project that, on or before June 30th, 2026, was part of the STIP, the Statewide Transportation Improvement Program, was funded for construction under the CTP, Consolidated Transportation Program, or completed the environmental review process under the National Environmental Policy Act, NEPA, which would include I-70.
Okay. So what about Route 15?
I'm sorry, I meant to say would include Route 15.
So it does include Route 15?
Yep.
Okay. All right, so just, look, this is a productive conversation just like the last one we had. So my amendment, just for the legislative record, would have excluded Route 15 from I-70 through Maryland Route 26, which is a bipartisan priority of Frederick County. So for the legislative record, this bill does not apply to that project.
That project is exempt under this bill, and that is an example of why it was so thoughtfully drafted.
Well, I'll at least give you the first part.
Oh, come on, give him that.
Yeah.
In good faith.
Madam Speaker, with that information, I will withdraw my amendment. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. All right. Let's see if we have the same luck, recognizing the
Thank you, Madam
without
Speaker.
objection, 1 minute. I jumped. Without objection, the amendment is withdrawn. Now, the gentleman from the Eastern Shore.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So I think there
You're
could have been a
welcome.
little more thoughtfulness in this. So with that said, I have an amendment at the desk. Amendment number 1235211.
Amendment number 1.
And because this is so important to my district and hopefully everyone here, I'm going to read this amendment verbatim. We're talking about exemptions, so this says any part of Maryland Route 90 from US Route 50 to Coastal Highway. So in case any of you are wondering what that is, that leads everyone to Maryland Sandbox, Ocean City. And we spent years of planning the replacement of Route 90, dualizing the highway and the bridge. And unfortunately, with years of that, we're still short of meeting the requirements that were just mentioned by the floor leader. We have not yet received the NEPA approval. So for that reason, this would be included. Right now, we have a situation where Route 50, we have 2 accesses through Maryland, Route 50 or Route 90. The Route 50 bridge is aging. It has a history of getting stuck in the up position. So that's kind of like a roadblock for that one. And then at the same time, we've had situations because of a single lane highway where an accident on 90 shuts down 90. So now traffic is paralyzed. If you think about it, 300,000 people there in the summer, and we have a situation where both highways are shut down. Emergency vehicles can't get in, can't get out. It's a safety concern. Delaying this with another process, another day, is a day too much. This project will reduce congestion. It's going to reduce stopping and starting. It is going to make it more safe.
is going to meet what this bill is looking for. For that reason, I'm asking for the exemption so that we can keep this moving forward as fast as possible. For that reason, I ask you to move the amendment.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Colleagues, on this one, I would urge you to reject the amendment for the same reason as to why the bill was drafted. This project is not far enough along in the planning process to have hit the exemption requirements. That being said, recall that there is also a requirement in this bill that only projects that are over 100 million are going to be subject to the requirements of the bill, which we don't know based on the alternatives of this project, whether it will definitely be over 100 million or not. But even if it is, just so that we are clear, there is tremendous flexibility for MDOT under this bill to achieve the requirements of the bill and also do all the things that my colleague wants to do. But because of how early on this project is in the planning process, we are in a moment where we have the ability to do those things now and ensure that as we plan and move this project along, it complies with the requirements of this bill and should not result in any delay either. But it means that we will be planning future projects like this one in a way that will achieve all the requirements of the bill, and I would urge the body to reject this amendment.
Recognizing the maker of the motion.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And when I hear
You're
words
welcome.
like should not, that's really concerning because we're dealing with public safety. We're dealing with people's lives. I can tell you what should not happen. 300,000 people should not be stranded in a resort area of Maryland, the most popular resort area in the state, and not have a way for an ambulance to get out of the town. That should not happen. So I can assure you, if anybody's familiar with Route 90, talking about expanding Route 90, replacing two bridge or adding another bridge to add 2 lanes is well over $100 million. That is a guarantee. I'm speaking factually. I'm not using should not. This is emphatic. This will be included, and I'm asking for everyone's interest here and for public safety to accept this amendment.
Recognizing the other gentleman from the Eastern Shore.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
And as a rural representative, I stand to support the amendment that was just made. We on the Eastern Shore and rural parts of the state struggle mightily with any of these type of projects that come through. This is one of the difficulties being in the Maryland General Assembly, where good folks from Montgomery, Prince George's, Baltimore City really do drive a lot of the decision making for your communities. When we're talking about issues like this, Route 90, it's because we live it. Every day we live it. During the summertime when Ocean City's trying to thrive, the problems that the amendment maker is talking about are real problems. And so in this bill are the kind of headwinds that we have fought, at least in my 12 years in the legislature, these nuanced bills that seem to have interest just for large projects and that for some reason the Eastern Shore or Western Maryland aren't affected. Well, in fact, they are affected under this bill, else we wouldn't be bringing the amendment. Further, if there's some concern about, well, maybe it's not, just pass the amendment, allow this bill to go through so that project can move forward. You know, at the end of the day, and I'll just close by saying this, when we bring these amendments, not all amendments are created equal. This one speaks directly to a rural part of the state where a project is surely going to reach the magnitude of the scale of the project for which this bill is intended. And we are trying to get the same kind of relief that you've allowed under the amendments of your own bill for your own communities. And for that reason, I stand with my good friend from Ocean City to support his amendment.
Okay. The question before the House is the adoption of the amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Roll call.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? The clerk will take the call. There being 94 votes in the negative, the amendment fails. Are there any additional amendments to the bill as to its title? Hearing none, the bill is printed for third reading. Quorum call.
Madam Speaker.
See if there's anyone in the back, please. Okay. Has everyone recorded their presence? If so, the clerk will take the call. There being 133 members present, the House is still in session. House third reading, calendar number 29. The clerk will read the bill.
House Bill 848, Public Safety, State Fire Prevention Code, Trash and Recyclable Materials.
House Bill number 848 is on third reading and final passage.
Madam Speaker.
Yes, recognizing the gentleman from Cecil County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I wanted to weigh in on this bill before we take a vote. Would the floor leader yield for a question?
Floor leader?
Of course.
Thank you.
Just bringing up my notes here. Okay, so in the fiscal note, just reviewing here, it actually makes reference to, I believe, the 2024 edition of NFPA 101. Is that an accurate statement?
Yes.
Okay. That's the only question that I had. Thank you.
Okay.
Why I believe that this bill is problematic is that we are dictating to a code enforcement group, which is our state fire marshals, that they should adopt a certain code for a certain year. And I've had the chance to talk to the advocates as well as the committee chair about this bill, and I did get some additional information. And I do believe that this should be adopted, right? I'm not rising today to argue about the merits of storing combustibles in egress and ingress paths, nor am I weighing in on how these engineers and these fire marshals should conduct business. However, this bill seeks to do that, and the reason that I have such a problem is because these codes get updated every 2 to 3 years. In some instances, there may be a mid-year review. And then the jurisdictions have the ability to adopt them or not as their purview. There are other codes that also, I don't want everyone to think that this is the only code that it's up or down. There are other codes that get adopted, and they sort of weave together to come up with how we conduct our buildings, how people occupy those buildings, and best practices. By mandating a certain year and a certain subset of code, we are in essence welding the hood shut on an automobile that needs constant maintenance. So in other words, if this code, which will be updated in the next few years, comes along, we have now forced the fire protection engineers to stay with that older style of code. I just want to repeat that. We are forcing through legislation a process that is very dynamic and ongoing for a code that probably within the next 6 to 8 months is going to be out of date and probably needs to be updated. This is not something that legislators should be meddling with, okay? As an engineer, one of the first classes that we take is ethics, and we study disasters. One of the most prominent ones is the Challenger disaster. Basically, you had a launch date, it was weather contingent, and politicians and bureaucrats weighed in, and I know this is an extreme example, but I'm painting this picture, weighed in and forced the launch. It was outside of the degree parameter for the launch, and we had a tragedy. This is not something that legislative bodies should be weighing in on. I would encourage this body, if they truly feel passionate about this, to work with the fire protection engineers to get them adopt the bill, and that's why I'll be voting no. I hope that you'll do the same, and I appreciate the time, Madam Speaker.
The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Madam Speaker, to explain my vote.
Explaining your vote.
So, Madam Speaker, this bill, and I appreciate what the good gentleman from Cecil County just said. I voted for it in committee. I'm proud to vote for it here. Jurisdictions like mine are really kind of some of the only ones, like Montgomery County also, and Prince George's County, with high-rise buildings that may be affected. The professional firefighters are in favor of this legislation. All the big housing groups are in favor. This is just codifying what already exists in Maryland and what has already been done at the National Fire Conference in 2024. So this has actually been recently vigorously studied. It's a good bill, and that's why I'm voting yes.
Thank you. Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 120 votes in the affirmative and 15 votes in the negative, House Bill number 848, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill.
Also 862, railroads, required crew for movement of freight.
House Bill number 862 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? Recognizing the gentleman from the Eastern Shore.
Thank you. Could the floor leader rise for a couple questions on this
Floor
bill?
leader, and let's listen, please.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
Good morning. So this is the bill that we've seen for many, many years. I remember debating this particular bill probably in the 2016, 2017 era. So what is the struggle with this bill? Why is this bill not being passed, and we're back in 2026 trying to bring it again? From your perspective, why is that happening?
Well, there were 2 years when the previous governor, vetoed it.
Okay.
And in 1 year, it was the end of the term, so we're not in a position to override the veto. The another year, there was some question about whether in the other chamber there were votes to override the veto. This bill, however, is different from previous versions since that it does require 3 nearby states which have ports, which might compete with the Port of Baltimore, to approve it for the bill to go into effect. Those are the states of Virginia, Pennsylvania, and New York.
So the original and primary opposition to this bill was over the fact that there is a federal component to this and that there's preemption. Are you saying to me that passing a bill that doesn't get triggered unless other states come online somehow or another fixes the preemption issue?
The preemption issue, I mean, according to the last Attorney General letter, which I received, which was for a previous version of this bill, there is no preemption issue. The Attorney General wrote in a letter that it's quite possible that a court would find that the bill was authorized as a safety measure under federal law and would not be preempted. So the addition of those 3 states doesn't deal with any possible preemption issue.
So the reason why I bring that up, and look, in 2020, I'm reading from testimony from a group. I need to figure out which one this is, but nevertheless, there was a Illinois case where crew size similar to the bill, what you're trying to do here, was preempted under Federal Railroad Safety Act. Are you telling me that the Attorney General for the state of Maryland says that's not going to be the case in Maryland?
That's right. In that letter, I believe it's in 2023, which was received from the Maryland Attorney General's office, there was reference to a 2021 court case about that Illinois law, but they noted it's not the same as this bill. And so the Attorney General's office said that the Illinois case does not change their conclusion.
Is it because the Illinois case only accounted for Illinois and Illinois didn't try this 2 or 3 state version of the bill?
No, I believe it's because it was just substantively different.
Okay, last question, and it was the Maryland Chamber of Commerce I was reading this information from, interestingly. The nature of the other concern that opponents to bills like this is that it's primarily a union bill. I think we can just get to the point where when I see the support for the bill, it's primarily unions. And we are balancing the interests of the unions against the economic impact of the Port of Maryland and how these ports can be changed. They can move deliveries to different areas in the country, different regions. And is the committee not concerned when you try to pass a bill like this for how it's going to affect the economic prosperity of the Port of Baltimore and related industries that are connected? Because that's been the other primary concern. I don't have the numbers in front of me because I didn't prepare a debate for this particular issue on the floor, but I suspect that you know what the numbers are as far as the economic impact of the Port of Baltimore, and my question is how do you weigh the concerns of how it's going to affect the Port of Baltimore against the interest of advancing a union bill like this?
Well, not to represent the committee in terms of everyone's feelings about the port, but I think it's safe to say that everyone in the committee realizes the significance of the port. But this bill is about 3 things: safety, safety, and safety. The reason for the bill is that when there's an emergency, such as at a train crossing, at a grade crossing, a single crew member cannot cannot do all the things that are necessary to protect the train and anyone who might have been affected by an accident. The engineer has to stay on board. Only if there is a second crew member can that person get off the train and address any injuries or life-threatening issues. So that's why it's, you have a variety of groups that testified in support of this. For example, the professional, I'm not sure this particular year, but in the past, the professional firefighters of Maryland are strongly in support of the legislation. They believe the bill is very important to public safety as first responders themselves.
Okay, so thank you, Floor Leader, for the conversation. Madam Speaker, on the bill.
Yes.
If there were major safety problems as it relates to rail traffic, we'd know about it. We'd be talking about it. None of that was brought up in this back and forth debate here. The nature of the preemption issue is real. You know, I know that the legislature often passes bills that have this fear of preemption, but we do it anyhow, and then you go through the exercise of realizing, look, the state of Maryland can't do this, and so what is this effort for? And it really gets to the more concerning part of this bill, not the preemption part, because I think at some point this bill, should it pass, gets preempted. I just believe that's the case. And I'm sure many of my colleagues believe the same thing. What I'm really concerned about is that this Port of Baltimore, and for the state of Maryland, especially what's happened with the Key Bridge, is this the right time to even have this kind of conversation, to bring this kind of bill when we know that that freight can be shipped to other ports, to other states? That's the primary concern on a bill like this, is that you make it hard and or impossible to interface with other states as you're running freight through. And I think it's a pretty simple argument. Are we willing to risk our port's economic prosperity through the lens of defending and supporting a union-style bill? I don't think the committee is actually saying that this is a union bill. They're talking safety. But when I read the letters of support, who's supporting this bill? Name the union. And they're on this bill and they're supporting it. That can't alone be the reason why we pass legislation here in Annapolis. It's also, the unions do not have the corner on safety. So just because a union's involved in union supporting doesn't mean you're advancing safety. There are many ways to advance safety issues, and so for the reasons of preemption, for the reasons of economic prosperity for our state through the lens of our port system, I would encourage my colleagues to vote against this bill. I surely will today.
The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker?
Can you explain your vote?
I was going to ask the floor leader, but I believe this is already covered. My vote before, so I can explain my no vote. This is already covered under the collective bargaining agreement. I was going to make sure that was true. So we really don't need this bill. It's another bill that really does nothing. Thank you.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 98 votes in the affirmative and 35 votes in the negative, House Bill 862, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
House Law 872, Law Enforcement Officers Pension System, Seat Pleasant Police Department.
House Bill 872 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. Okay, there being 135 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, House Bill number 872, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
House Bill 875, Public Safety, Distribution of Literature to Purchasers of Firearms and Ammunition.
House Bill number 875 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? Recognizing the lady from Baltimore County.
Thank you. Can the
You're
floor
welcome.
leader rise on this,
Floor
please?
leader, please. Who's the floor leader on this bill? Judiciary, recognizing the delegate from Anne Arundel.
Good morning.
Morning.
What does this bill do?
Yes, absolutely, and thank you for the question. So this bill is about a pamphlet for literature pertaining to firearms distribution and ammunition distribution, which would allow for, once a firearm distributor sell a weapon or ammunition, it would give them a pamphlet that would be constructed by the Maryland Department of Health and issued to each of the counties to be distributed by their county of health to any local distributor of firearms and ammunition throughout the state.
So I think what you're saying is the Department of Health is going to develop and print a pamphlet to give to gun stores so they can have them on the counter for people who are buying firearms to pick up. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, they will definitely develop the language. It may be also obtained through a QR code as well.
Why do we need this bill?
It's about safety and health around distribution of firearms in event of a crisis, to make sure that we're educating those individuals when they're purchasing weapons on options that they may have when they're in a crisis.
So this makes the assumption that people purchasing firearms don't understand that gravity and the responsibility in owning a firearm.
No, it makes good government making sure that we do all we can to make sure that our citizens are working well with manufacturers and sellers of weapons and ammunition to give them a path for safety around those weapons and ammunition.
Do people purchasing a firearm need to take a class before they purchase that firearm?
No, they do not.
Yes, they do.
They do.
They do need to take a class before they purchase that firearm.
One second, 1 minute. Sometimes when we get up on the floor, it's difficult to hear the question and to process what was asked, so let's be respectful, please, okay?
So do you want to reconsider your answer?
Yes, that's state law.
Yes, so you do need to take a class before you can buy a firearm. Do you think in that class they're not already teaching this information?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. It's the noise in the background.
May I ask, please, let's just not speak for a second. Let's listen. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So in this class that every single person who purchases a firearm must take, are they not getting this information in that class?
Which information are you particularly
On the pamphlet that this bill is purporting to, so they're already getting it. Thank you, Mr. Floor Leader. I would like to tell you that this is another bill that does nothing. We really, in this budget crisis with a $70 billion budget with a looming massive deficit, this is not the kind of bill that we should be passing. This information is already available to people who purchase firearms. Firearm purchasers are very aware of the dangers of owning a firearm and the responsibility of that. So we don't need this bill, we don't need a literature, we don't need a $1,000 fine for gun shops that don't have that pamphlet on the counter. This is another bill about nothing. I'll be voting red. Thank you.
Recognizing the chair of the committee.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
I have been, I've been buying pizza for I don't know how many years, but they always tell me to remove that frozen. When I buy my frozen pizza, they say remove the cardboard because of danger. So, and I've been buying other products for I don't know how many years, but they always tell me to remove the aluminum foil when I put it in the microwave. It's not because I don't know better, but it could cause a hazard. And when it comes to a firearm, a person may want to use it. As we know, many deaths have been caused for suicide. So one of the reasons why we're including the Department of Health is because we want to also help individuals with respect to suicide prevention. It's an extra $447,000, I think we're $41,000 out of the budget, and it is super important. Thank you.
The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 97 votes in the affirmative and 37 votes in the negative, House Bill number 875, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
House Bill 1138, State Retirement and Pension System, Cost of Living Adjustments, clarification.
House Bill number 1138 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 135 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, House Bill number 1138, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 1169, Howard County Highway Speed Limits.
House Bill number 1169 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 134 votes in the affirmative and 1 vote in the negative, House Bill number 1169, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed.
Vote change, Madam Speaker.
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Vote change, House Bill 848 to yea, please.
Thank you. Any other vote change? All right. House third reading calendar number 30. The clerk will read the bill.
House Bill 265, State Board of Elections, Address Confidentiality Program, Designation of Contact Person.
House Bill 265 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 135 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, House Bill number 265, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
House Bill 321, Environment, Synthetic Turf Industry and Disposal Study, deadline extension.
House Bill number 321 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 116 votes in the affirmative and 19 votes in the negative, House Bill number 321, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
House Bill 403, Public Information Act, Divorce Records.
House Bill number 403 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 135 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, House Bill number 403, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 426, Petition for Guardianship of the Property of Alleged Disabled Person, Stay of Civil Actions and Proceedings.
House Bill number 426 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 136 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, House Bill number 426, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed.
Madam Speaker?
Yes, I'm so sorry, recognizing
it's
the
fine.
lady from Hartford County.
I just want to let you know that the floor system is being funky again. It's just spinning, and we can't see our notes sections right now.
Okay. Can we wait a second? How's it looking now? It's good? All right, thank you, thank you. Recognizing the lady from Prince George's.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. A vote, well, my finger wasn't working. I'd like to be recorded as yay on HB 1138 and HB 875. Thank you.
Remember to turn in your yellow slips, okay?
They're ready to go.
Thank you so much. So House Bill number 457, the clerk will read the bill.
House Bill 457, Institutions of Higher Education, Provision of Menstrual Hygiene Products Requirement.
House Bill number 457 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? Recognizing the lady from Hartford County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
I was just looking at this bill and I feel like I'm having deja vu because don't we already do this? I believe, aren't these already provided in the bathrooms?
Let me ask the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
Some schools do provide this through club activities at the higher education level. Some schools do provide them on the bathrooms on the first floor, but there is no requirement at the state level for all institutions of higher education to provide them.
Okay, and so where is this? Is this putting them in bathrooms? Where is it putting them?
It's putting them in the student health center so that you can actually get more than one at a time.
In the student health center, and they don't already do this?
They do provide them, but we're making it so that everyone is aware that every school that has a student health center and has residents, so has a residence hall, will be able to provide them. So if you don't have students on campus and if you don't have a student health center, then you won't be required to provide them.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for answering my
Of
questions
course, no
on
problem.
this.
Any more?
Okay, as has been mentioned several times on the floor, we have a lot of important work at hand, and God bless you guys, but this cannot be the most important thing we're working on. We are spending time on a lot of bills today that are stuff that we actually mostly already do just fine. Please, let's try and save some people money on energy or something, because that's what we're getting calls about, not menstrual products in college universities.
Thank you. And I have to say that the energy bills are coming, and just brace yourself for long days. And they're wonderful bills, and I am a little biased since I introduced it. And I thank the committee for working on it, recognizing the delegate from Baltimore County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I just want to give a shout out to my colleagues on the Environment and Transportation Committee who have been working late nights trying to get the energy bills ready. And the sooner we can get off the floor, the sooner they can get back to work. Thank you.
Okay. The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker?
Come on, let's take the vote. All right? Let's take the vote. Has everyone recorded their vote? All right, come on. Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 105 votes in the affirmative and 31 votes in the negative, House Bill number 457, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 480, Transportation Network Companies, deactivation of operators.
House Bill 480 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 98 votes in the affirmative and 38 votes in the negative, House Bill number 480, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. So we have another calendar. Just take a deep breath, okay? All right,
Madam
any
Speaker?
vote change? Recognizing the delegate from Prince George's.
Thank you. There was one more. I would like to, my finger wasn't working, if I could have a vote change on HB 872, be recorded as aye.
We got to fix that finger. House third reading, calendar number 31. The clerk will read the bill.
House Bill 212, Vehicle Laws, Out-of-State Motor Vehicles Enforcement.
Is there any debate? Recognizing the gentleman for Southern Maryland.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
House Bill 212, Vehicle Laws, Out-of-State Motor Vehicles Enforcement, seeks to penalize Marylanders who register their cars out of state, among other things. And then you have to ask yourself the question, well, why are Marylanders registering their cars out of state? Well, they're doing it because this legislature made it so expensive for people to register their cars in the state in which they live that they're trying to find places to save money. High electricity prices, high property taxes. Of course, we also now have out-of-control car registration fees. So people are registering their cars out of state just to find a few dollars to save, and quite frankly, you can't blame them. You can't blame them at all. And so what does House Bill 212 decide to do to solve the problem of Marylanders trying to save money because this legislature made registering cars in the state so expensive? House Bill 212 will actually seize your vehicle. Your vehicle is legally registered in another state, and granted, you're operating it here in Maryland and elsewhere. But House Bill 212 says, obey. Obey this legislature that made basically trying to register your car so expensive that now we're going to take your property. Quite frankly, House Bill 212 seems a lot more like something that would happen in a communist country, such as, I don't know, China. Obey, or else. Fine, you can laugh all you want. I don't think my constituents think it's too funny that you've made car registration fees so out of control. So House Bill 212 creates a $7 per day fee on your car for not obeying. And then, ultimately, after 120 days, the state will come in, or someone will come in, and just tow your car away and seize it so that you can no longer use your property because the state has made it so expensive to operate your property within the state. So to that end, ladies and gentlemen, I would just say this. You haven't made life more affordable, and now you're making it more difficult than ever in the state of Maryland. And I don't blame the citizens of Maryland for registering their cars out of state. In fact, I would encourage the people of the state of Maryland, I would encourage them to send a message to this legislature and have all 5 million cars register out of state to once and for all send a statement and send a message to you for what you've done to the middle class. It's about time that we do that. So by all means, Marylanders, register your cars out of state. Send a message to this legislature. Stand up. Have a tax revolt, because we've had enough. For all those reasons, Madam Speaker, I'm voting against House Bill 212. Thank you.
You're welcome. Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
I want to defend the bill a little bit, the work of the committee. Very proud of this bill. First of all, this bill was bipartisan and passed unanimously bipartisan in committee. I'm not aware of any communists on the committee, so it's good to know that. Overall, I'll also say that the work on this issue, the registration of vehicles out of state, the Maryland residents buying Virginia tags illegally, predates any updates to vehicle registration fees that we've done in recent years. This has been an ongoing problem that I've heard from my constituents, that I know it's a really big problem in the Baltimore region in general, and I think that this bill goes a long way towards solving that. Like I also said yesterday, this also ensures that people who do have legitimate reasons for registering their vehicles out of state, like military, like people who've recently moved, like people who are snowbirds, it ensures there's a process in place to make sure they're not penalized unjustly. And I'll also add at the very end that, again, this is an issue for not just people trying to avoid registration fees, because while our registration fees might be higher than Virginia's, Virginia also has a vehicle tax vehicle property tax that they have to pay every year. So, and finally, I'll end with this. This is not someone just trying to avoid registration. It's people trying to avoid the law. It's people trying to avoid tickets. It's people trying to avoid police. It's people who are doing other nefarious things with Virginia tags and other states' tags. So for all those reasons, Madam Speaker, I will be voting green on this bill.
The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker?
You want to explain your vote?
Yeah. Well, I guess I got to vote, because I had a question on the bill, but I guess I got to vote.
Okay.
So I'll just do
All
no.
right.
I'll just do no. So basically, I was standing because I was reading some of the opposition, and there was one from the Maryland Farm Bureau, and I was looking at the amendments. I'm not sure that theirs was addressed. Was the agricultural products and tractors taken out? I'm seeing a shaking of yes.
Yes, that was taken out.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 113 votes in the affirmative and 21 votes in the negative, House Bill number 212, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
House Bill 231, Higher Education Guaranteed Access Grant Program, applicability.
House Bill number 231 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 136 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, House Bill number 231, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
House Bill 234, Public Safety, Police Employees and Deputy State Fire Marshals, repeal of pay rate restriction on promotion.
House Bill number 234 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 135 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, House Bill number 234, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
House Bill 538, 4-year Institutions of Higher Education Mandatory Disclosures for New and Prospective Students, Inform Enrollment Act.
House Bill 538 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 136 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, House Bill number 538, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
House Bill 640, Mandated Reports, Boards and Commissions, revisions.
House Bill number 640 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 136 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, House Bill number 640, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 663, Department of the Environment, Federal Environmental Policy, reporting.
House Bill number 663 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 98 votes in the affirmative and 37 votes in the negative, House Bill number 663, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. House third reading calendar number 32. The clerk will read the bill.
House Bill 266, Department of Information Technology Investment Fund, uses.
House Bill number 266 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 136 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, House Bill number 266, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
House Bill 269, Maryland Public Ethics Law, Financial Disclosure Statements, State Officials, and Candidates to be a State Official on the Judicial Branch.
House Bill number 269 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 135 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, House Bill number 269, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed.
Madam Speaker, I'm sorry, my button didn't work on the last bill. I'd like to be in the green.
Thank you.
And I'll do my yellow form.
Thank you. Anyone else? The clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 413, Maryland-Ireland Trade Commission, Membership and Termination, altered and extended.
House Bill number 413 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 135 votes in the affirmative and 1 vote in the negative, House Bill number 413, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 478, income tax subtraction modification for classroom supplies purchased by teachers, alteration.
House Bill number 478 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk would call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk would take the call. There being 134 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, House Bill number 478, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 809, Walter Sondheim Jr. Public Service Internship Scholarship Program funding.
House Bill 809 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? Recognizing the lady from Baltimore County.
Thank you. Would the floor leader rise, please?
Floor leader, please. Recognizing the lady from Baltimore City.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I'm reading on page 3 of the bill. Beginning in fiscal year 2028, the governor shall include in the annual budget bill an appropriation at least 150% of the appropriation in 26. What can you tell us about that?
Well, this program has been around since 2007, and it's never had a budget item on the line in the University of Maryland, Baltimore County's budget. It's just been something they've been absorbing to the tune of about $357,000 a year. So this is acknowledging that this program is great, and now the governor should also be putting in additional funds to support the program because it also includes his service year fellowship participants.
Well, I'm sure this is a great scholarship. Are you concerned about tying the hands of future legislatures?
Absolutely not, because we've actually been benefiting from this project since 2007 because all of these people have been working in state agencies, helping us with the fiscal notes we're even looking over. So if anything, we've already been benefiting from it, and we actually need to put some more in to show that appreciation.
So what's the fiscal note on it?
$175,000.
And then 300 and something after that?
That's always been in the budget.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks for that information.
You're welcome. Happy to
Again,
help.
I'm going to say the bills, does it make Maryland safer, freer, or more affordable? We cannot continue to spend money at the rate we're spending it. We have a massive fiscal cliff coming, and for those reasons, I will be voting against this bill. Thank you.
You're welcome. The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk would take the call. There being 111 votes in the affirmative and 21 votes in the negative, House Bill number 809, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
House Bill 822, Circuit Court Clerks and Registers of Wills, maximum salary.
House Bill 822 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? Recognizing the lady from Hartford County.
Thank you, Madam
You're welcome.
Speaker. I just, for the body to know, I got tangled up in the fiscal note of this bill when I voted for it in committee, and the parentheses got me really confused, and I thought the bill was actually going to lead to a savings. In fact, it is quite the opposite. So for those of you who love to follow my vote, it looked green, it's turning very red. So I will be a very red vote on this bill that actually significantly increases the cost burden for the state. Thank you.
You're welcome. Recognizing the chair of the committee.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
Just wanted to make it clear that this
Let's
bill,
listen, please.
that this
Thank you.
bill gives a range in which the increase can happen. Also, the increase would only happen within the next term. And finally, the increase is part of the budget. This is not something that is unanticipated. It comes out of the budget for the clerks and the Register of Wills.
Recognizing the gentleman from Anne Arundel.
Southern Maryland. Thank you,
I'm
Madam
sorry.
Speaker. No worries.
I've been getting it right.
You have. I appreciate it. Could
It's
the floor
okay.
leader please rise? Hey, good morning.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Could you tell me how much is this? Well, what is the fiscal note? What's the total amount now?
So Well, what will happen is, if it's approved, the fiscal note could increase up to $651,929.
Now, and this is for the clerk of the courts?
This is for the clerks of the court, circuit court, and as well as the register of wills.
So didn't they recently get a raise?
They got a raise 4 years ago, just like we did.
Okay, so this would represent what, about an 18% raise? 20%
No, this
raise?
represents a range. This represents a range. The maximum would eat up that whole budget I just gave you, but it represents a range.
So would this be an automatic salary growth?
Automatic salary growth?
Yes.
Yeah, to some extent, yeah.
Okay.
What it's going to be is not automatic, but yeah, one would qualify for a growth.
So it's not, no longer is it like every 4 years you come back and there's a bill to increase the salary. This implements a mechanism where there's an automatic range of growth.
There's an automatic range, but it is not guaranteed that it's going to reach the maximum range. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Madam Speaker.
You're welcome. Recognizing the delegate from Hartford County.
I was quick enough this time. Thank you,
It's
Madam
okay.
Speaker. And would the floor leader rise for a question?
Sure.
Yeah.
Madam Speaker.
I have a
Yes.
I
Thank
have-
you.
I have a question. So does this make all of both the register wills and the clerks, okay, in their separate areas, does it make them all, like all the register wills in every county the same and they move up the same, or is it done by size of how many employees they have over and so forth? Is there any distinction between a larger county and a smaller county?
I believe the range is the same, but just give me 1 second. I have my clerk on the line from Anne Arundel County. Right. So to answer your question, it is a salary scale depending on the jurisdiction, the size of the jurisdiction.
So sizes and
Yes.
considered.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Yes. No other questions? The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 115 votes in the affirmative and 18 votes in the negative, House Bill number 822, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Recognizing the gentleman from the Eastern Shore.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Vote change
You're
on
welcome.
House Bill 212. I want to be recorded in the green.
Recognizing the delegate from Anne Arundel.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
Vote change on House Bill 809 to red.
Any other vote change?
Madam Speaker.
Yes, recognizing the delegate from Frederick.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Vote
You're
change
welcome.
on 457 to green.
All right, any other vote change? All right. So House third reading, calendar number 33. The clerk will read the bill.
House Bill 156, election law, affiliating with a party and voting unaffiliated voters.
House Bill number 156 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? Recognizing the delegate from Montgomery County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm very excited and proud to cast my green vote for this bill. It's actually a bill I sponsored several years in a row, and I'm very excited to see it finally showing up on this board. Not Montgomery County, well, this entire state of Maryland is now home to a million unaffiliated voters, and the number is accelerating. That is 1 in 4 of all registered voters. And speaking from personal experience as an Asian American, as an immigrant, I know a lot of people in my cultural community have a hard time trying to understanding why they must affiliate with a political party in order to make their votes count. And in fact, many of these people are also veterans and young people who deliberately choose not to affiliate with a political party. As both parties try to find our base and win elections, we need to face the reality that demographics have changed dramatically and make ourselves more relevant to the people in the middle. And I also think making more people in the middle make their votes count also will drive more sensible policies. So for all these reasons, I'm very proud to vote green on this. While I wish we wouldn't force people to join a political party to make their votes count, I think this is a great step in the right direction. So I want to thank all of the members on the GLEE committee and the chairperson, as well as the speaker and my great seatmate for advancing this bill. I had always suspected it was a sponsor problem. Thank you for confirming that.
The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote?
Madam
If
Speaker,
not,
can I explain my vote?
oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Recognizing the delegate from Hartford County.
I was just going to ask a couple of clarifying questions, but I wasn't speedy enough. But it looks to me, and I'm just musing now, that this just allows for someone unaffiliated to choose a party at the last second, which is really a smart idea, because I have so many red friends that live in beautiful Montgomery County who would love to vote in your primaries. So good choice, guys.
Okay, the clerk will, recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And just to explain my green vote, we are proud to enfranchise unaffiliated voters by giving them up to the day of the early voting or day of the election for a primary to be able to affiliate as an unaffiliated voter, and to protect all of us really truly across the state of Maryland to avoid any nefarious actions. We didn't say that just anybody can do this. We looked specifically at that 1 million unaffiliated voters and said, you can have the right to affiliate at your polling place to be able to vote. And so for those reasons, I'm very proud to cast my green vote today. Thank you.
Recognizing the delegate from Baltimore County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I
welcome.
wanted to stand to explain my vote today. I think it reflects poorly on all of us, actually, that we can't convince a person to affiliate with a party up until Election Day. And I think that sentiment is because increasingly people actually struggle to identify with either party. And if you look at the commentary and the polling, that's found to be very true. People are frankly very, they don't feel that either party actually represents them. So why does this matter? I think it actually should be incumbent upon us as leaders to say, here's what I stand for, and if you believe in me, why don't you register for the party in which I am, and we could work together on issues. In any race in any state, there are relatively very few races that are actually competitive. And what this provides for is at the last minute for big monetary interests to target those few races and make a few percent of those unaffiliated voters show up out of nowhere. And for small campaigns, you know, campaigns that might have a couple $1,000s, those new candidates won't even get an opportunity to identify those voters or talk to them. So it sounds good on paper, but in practice, I think the small guy is going to get crushed. I think it's incumbent upon us to identify with the voters and speak our truth as to why they should support us and not manipulate the system at the last minute. That's why I'm a no.
Madam Speaker. Recognizing the delegate from Prince George's to my left and then to my right.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. To explain my green vote, I actually believe in open primaries. I'm probably in the very small minority on that. But I do think we need to find a way to enfranchise all of our citizens in Maryland. And I think that this bill is a step in the right direction. And I don't want the perfect to be the enemy of the good. It's a good first step, and I'm proud to vote green on it until we can get to a point where all of our citizens have a right to vote. Because in some jurisdictions, one party or another has such an overwhelming majority of the votes that independents can't be heard, and we need to give our independents a way to engage in our democracy. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome. Recognizing the delegate from Prince George's.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
I usually don't get up to speak, and I just want to say I am so proud to vote green on this particular bill, because as the representative of the largest minority Latino community in the state, the only one, I have to say that the vast majority of how people left their country was extremely traumatic. And research studies show that their lack of disengagement with politics is reflective of that upon entering a new country. And so that's why they tend, once they convert to citizens here in their new country, that's why they opt to become independent. And so this is very much backed by research. So to be able to give them an opportunity to go to a poll in a particular election is so transformative. And I want to say thank you to the sponsor.
The clerk will call the roll. There being 110 votes in the affirmative and 26 votes in the negative, House Bill number 156, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will call the next bill, please.
House Bill 161, property tax credit, retail service station conversions.
House Bill number 161 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 129 votes in the affirmative and 7 votes in the negative, House Bill number 161, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will call the next bill.
House Bill 561, Maryland Child Care Credential Program, extension of funding.
House Bill number 561 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 102 votes in the affirmative and 34 votes in the negative, House Bill number 561, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
House Bill 595, income tax credit for physician preceptors in areas with healthcare workforce shortages, alterations.
House Bill number 565 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 123 votes in the affirmative and 11 votes in the negative, House Bill number 595, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 720, Higher Education, Douglas J.J. Peters, Veterans of the Afghanistan and Iraq Conflict Scholarship, repeal of termination date.
House Bill number 720 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 135 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, House Bill number 720, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
House Bill 811, Aging in Place Programs, Grants, Multi-Generational Third Places, the Village Multi-Generational Third Places Act.
House Bill number 811 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 114 votes in the affirmative and 21 votes in the negative, House Bill number 811, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed.
Madam Speaker.
House,
Madam
yes?
Speaker.
Vote
Thank you.
change,
Vote
recognizing the gentleman from Anne Arundel.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. HB 161 from green to red.
Thank you. Recognizing the gentleman from Baltimore County.
565 to yay.
Recognizing the gentleman from the Eastern Shore.
House Bill 561 to green.
Recognizing the lady from Carroll.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
House Bill 595 to yes and 822 to yes, please.
You're welcome. Any other vote change? Thank you, everyone. House third reading calendar number 35. The clerk will read the bill.
House Bill 1012, Public Health, Local Suicide Fatality Review Teams, authorization.
House Bill number 1012 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? Recognizing the minority leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I just had a question or a couple questions from the floor leader for
Floor leader.
clarification.
Who's the floor leader on health? It's okay, it happens.
The good doctor.
People are a little tired, but we're
morning.
almost done, okay?
Hi, good morning, good morning, good morning.
Good morning. The bill as I read it at least, it does not have any state fiscal effect. Is that correct? It doesn't require the state to do anything.
Right, it's enabling legislation, and so local jurisdictions, if they feel they have the resources and want to do it, they can do it. There's no obligation to the state.
Okay, so we just talk about that a lot in Ways and Means. It's enabling only. Locals can choose to do it, and the goal of the bill is to help to improve suicide prevention. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
And there's no state fiscal effect.
No state fiscal, no.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Recognizing the delegate from Hartford County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
I appreciate the questions from the minority. I don't have questions. I'm just going to kind of comment. But I would make a comment that we've seen a lot of funding, and we don't have the final budget yet, but we've seen a lot of funding cuts to local health departments. So I don't know. Just again, it seems like we're passing bills. We're saying, oh, you can do this, but then we're not going to give them potentially money to do that, which is because we're in a horrible deficit while we're also cutting money. I don't know, guys. Again, what are we doing here? Telling a county you can do this, but we can't help you finance it. Who will be able to do it then? I mean, it's just feels like we're passing a bunch of feel-good election year stuff so folks can go home and say, oh, look at this bill with my name on it that I passed. Vote for me. I did a great job. And it actually accomplishes probably not a lot. And in this case, it's really sad because
Madam
it's a
Speaker,
serious issue that somebody
point of order.
might really want to.
Impugning motives here.
One second. Let her finish.
Yeah, I think it's offensive that we're passing something that's of such a grave and important issue, and at the end of the day, we're not going to fund it. And so it feels wrong to tell people this. It just feels wrong to keep passing bills and saying we're doing something when at the end of the day, we're actually not doing anything. So just like slapping a label on a box of ammo, like we're not doing anything, you guys. It's just more regs. It's more policies that are unenforceable, and it's just virtue signaling. And on issues like this, that's particularly sad.
Recognize the majority leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I just am going to comment that I don't think it's appropriate to be impugning someone's motives here and trying to attribute what they're doing as a legitimate policy matter. And here we're talking about suicide. I don't think that's appropriate here.
Recognizing the full leader.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I just wanted to point out to the body that we have, and one of the reasons this bill was brought before us was because we have at least one local jurisdiction who does feel like they have the resources, they wanted to be able to do this. We're doing it at the state level, but the state is not able to drill down to 24 different jurisdictions to get the specifics of what they need to do. And so, yeah, as I said, at least one jurisdiction is able, ready, and would like to be able to move forward. Thank you.
Recognizing the delegate from Southern Maryland.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I want
welcome.
to say why we'll have a no vote on this bill. And it really has nothing to do with funding or anything of that sort, because suicide is a big deal. Unfortunately, my best friend, right after high school, committed suicide. So it's always a personal matter for me. But in part, in the bill, I believe it's, I don't forget the page number here, but there is an actual immunity clause. So what this is an investigation after a suicide has taken place by government officials, and there's an immunity clause in the bill in case personal information is leaked. And some of this information I feel could be very harmful for the family if some of this stuff got out. So it was really on a personal freedom reason why I'll be voting red on this bill. So thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome. Recognizing the full leader.
Yeah, thank you very much. Just for clarification, the primary reason that there is an immunity clause is because there is a need to share information between this particular group and, say, the overdose team that is looking at overdoses in the community. And both of those are supposed to keep the information privileged and private, but in order to do the work that we're trying to do on preventing overdoses or diminishing the number of overdoses and to decrease the amount of suicides in the community, they need to be sharing information. And so while it is true that there may also be that sharing of information is, as the delegate from Southern Maryland said, this is not about sharing information with the public. These are internal processes, and that's why there's an immunity clause, because we want the groups doing one work that has a nexus with the group doing the other work to be able to share that information so that we can have the best information to make the best policy decisions at the local level to do the best work for the people.
The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote?
Madam Speaker, to explain my vote.
Yes, recognizing the gentleman from Hartford.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. To explain my vote, so, I'm a veteran. We have a lot of veterans here. 18 veterans take their own lives every single day in this country. We have an entire display on the 3rd floor of the House Office building of multiple veterans, many from Maryland, that have taken their own lives, and there are a variety of reasons. Transition back to the real world, their experiences. Myself, I'm 70% service-connected PTSD from my service. Fortunately, I've never been in a situation, but I've had lots of friends. I even have a friend in one of those pictures in the 3rd floor of the House Office building who took their own life here a couple years ago in the state of Maryland. So it's going to take a lot of work to get at the bottom of these things. It's going to take collaboration, thoughtfulness, and I'm glad we're taking a step to try to address these issues for not just veterans, but every individual, kids included, who are having to deal with a lot of issues with social media, pressure, bullying, things that we never had to consider as kids. Because one wrong move by one of these kids on social media is exposed the entire world. And so for the veterans, for the kids, for everybody, I'm proudly voting green in this bill. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The clerk will take the call. There being 120 votes in the affirmative and 8 votes in the negative, House Bill number 1012, having received a constitutional majority, is declared pass. The clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 1068, Health Insurance Special Enrollment Period for Newly Hired Employees of Small Businesses.
House Bill number 1068 is on 3rd reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 116 votes in the affirmative and 18 votes in the negative, House Bill number 1068, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
House Bill 1096, Property Tax Credits, Notice through Property Tax Bill.
House Bill 1096 is on 3rd reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 134 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, House Bill number 1096, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 1263, Public Health Work Group on Post-Operative Cosmetic Care.
House Bill number 1063 is on 3rd reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 98 votes in the affirmative and 36 votes in the negative, House Bill number 1063, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 1321, Child Care Scholarship Program Application Process and Copays Alterations.
House Bill number 1321 is on 3rd reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 133 votes in the affirmative and 3 votes in the negative, House Bill number 1321, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
House Bill 1364, Public Health Mammograms Arterial Calcification Notice.
House Bill number 1364 is on 3rd reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk would take the call. There being 136 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, House Bill number
Madam
1360.
Speaker, vote change.
Yeah, let me just finish reading it.
Yes.
1 second. House Bill number 1364, having received a constitutional majority, is declared pass. Vote change.
I inadvertently gave the wrong number. It's House Bill 561 to yay.
Okay, recognizing the gentleman from Baltimore County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. 1321 to a nay, please.
Recognizing the gentleman from Baltimore County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. HB 161 to green. Thank you.
Recognizing the gentleman from the Eastern Shore.
House Bill 1068 to green.
Recognizing the lady from Prince George's.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. My button didn't work on HB 1263. Would like to be recorded in the green. Thank you.
You're welcome. Recognizing the gentleman from Southern Maryland.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. House Bill 1321 to red.
Recognizing the lady from Anne Arundel.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. House Bill 1068 to yay.
Recognizing the delegate with the blue tie from Anne Arundel.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. House Bill 1096 to green.
Recognizing the gentleman from Anne Arundel.
Thank
Is
you,
that
Madam-
pink?
Yes, ma'am.
It looks nice.
Thank you.
Go
You're always so
ahead.
nice to me. HB 1321 to red. Thank you.
Wonderful. Recognizing the delegate from Hartford.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. HB
You're welcome.
413 to green.
Thank you. Recognizing the delegate from Carroll.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'd like to be recorded in the green for House Bill 1263. Thanks.
Recognizing the gentleman from the Eastern Shore.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. House Bill 1068 green.
Any other vote change? Recognizing the minority whip.
Sure, 809 to red. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else? Thank you for your patience. House third reading calendar number 36. The clerk will read the bill.
House Bill 520, State Board of Physicians, Naturopathic Doctors, Scope of Practice Renewals and Professional Liability Insurance.
House Bill number 520 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk would take the call. There being 96 votes in the affirmative and 38 votes in the negative, House Bill number 520, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 753, Tax Sales, Homeowner Protections, Revisions.
House Bill number 753 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk would take the call. There being 135 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, House Bill number 753, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
House Bill 784, Aquaculture, Placement of Shellfish, Bags, Nets, and Structures on Submerged Aquatic Vegetation, Extension.
House Bill number 784 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk would take the call. There being 134 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes in the negative, House Bill number 784, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
House Bill 804, Department of Aging, Aging Resilience Fund, Establishment.
House Bill 804 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 100 votes in the affirmative and 35 votes in the negative, House Bill number 804, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
House Bill 849, Child Care Scholarship Program, Freeze and Enrollment, Exceptions and Waitlist.
House Bill number 849 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? Recognizing the gentleman from Southern Maryland.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're
Could I-
welcome.
The floor leader, rise.
Floor leader, please.
Hey, good afternoon. Hey, we had some debate on this, answering questions yesterday. I want to thank the chair of the Appropriations Committee for clarifying some of the questions. So would it be fair to say that the program changed in the bill that we just passed on HB 1321 changed the scope of this program, and then the cost savings or the changes of scope is now being applied to this bill. And I think the total appropriations is somewhere around the 16 million once the program is fully implemented. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Based upon appropriations confirming that.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for clarifying that. I do want to thank the appropriations for clarifying this. I would be a red. I just think we have a philosophical difference on what the role of government should be on some of these taxpayer-funded programs like childcare. And it also speaks to a greater issue that we will be having in here in the future as we're heading towards this fiscal cliff of $3 billion next year. We should have a robust discussion on work requirements for some of these programs. So thank you, Madam Speaker.
Recognizing the chair of the committee.
This chair, okay. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Just to be clear, what's happening here, as we said yesterday, there was a House Bill 1321 that changes the scope that actually saves $16 million. This bill actually costs $1 million. So actually, between the two bills, we save $15 million. Will we then put that back into the general fund, to the gentleman's point? No, we will put it back into scholarships, into partial scholarships. So he is right. We have a philosophical disagreement. We believe we should be making Maryland more affordable for Marylanders. And one of the things that is most unaffordable for Marylanders is childcare. One of the things that keeps people out of work in Maryland, by and large, is childcare, particularly women. So if you want more women in the workforce, more Marylanders in the workforce, more affordable Maryland, you will vote for this bill as you voted for 1321 that just passed.
Madam Speaker.
Recognizing the minority leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm not sure that I completely share the philosophy of either of my two friends and colleagues that just spoke, but I'm going to tell you why I voted for the bill and how it was explained to me. I like, more than anything else, to try to be accurate. God knows we all have inaccuracies. We all don't do things correctly. I definitely fall into that category. But I like to think when I vote on something, I know what it does and what it doesn't do in the real world. My understanding, and I'm not calling a floor leader up to discuss this, but please correct me if I'm wrong, is that what the combination of 1321 and 849 does is we actually raise the copay for a certain group of people who are already participating in this program. Not the poorest of the poor, but people who get to participate in the program and may be viewed as lower middle class or middle class. They have some more ability to contribute to their own child care needs. I view that, frankly, as a conservative suggestion. I'm requiring people who have the means to pay to put a little bit more in to get a child care government subsidy. And because those people are putting a little bit more money in, rather than just having 100% of their costs subsidized by taxpayer dollars, it's creating a bigger fund. And because we're creating a bigger fund, rather than saying we're going to take all that money and just put it to the bottom line of the general fund, we're using the bigger fund to include program eligibility and enhance program eligibility for people who really can't contribute more, like homeless kids, which was the part of some of this bill. Homeless kids, homeless families really don't have an extra dollar to contribute to child care. They can be included into the program better, not because our taxpayers are paying for it, but because all the other folks in the program who meet the income eligibility guidelines, they're going to have to pay more. That's what I think the bills do. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think it's making people who have the means to pay more, reduce the subsidization of the taxpayer, and use those funds to increase the benefit for the most needy among us. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Recognizing the delegate from Hartford.
Thank you so much, Madam
welcome.
Speaker. I really appreciate the watchful eye of the chair of the committee on issues around affordability. He mentioned that he's working hard to make it more affordable, but we are not really discussing why it's so unaffordable. Why is it so unaffordable in the state of Maryland for so many things? It's almost a mystery, except for it's not a mystery. It's because of the policies that this body has put forward that have caused it to be untenable for people to stay, live, retire here. Things like our massive hourly wage requirements. Those are insane. Our minimum wage requirements are insane, and so they make things like childcare impossible for regular people to afford. So then we have to create programs just like this and move money around in funny ways, tell people they're going to get childcare for free and then take it away, tell them we're going to charge them for it, but it's going to go to somebody else. We do that because our policies, especially around minimum wage laws, but also around all business regulations, have made it untenable to create products and services at reasonable prices, unlike many, many, many of our neighbors, you know, the ones in states where you all intend to retire to.
All right, recognizing the lady from Montgomery County, then the Eastern Shore.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
I'm proudly going to be voting green for this bill, colleagues, because this bill is about the more than 5,000 children who are currently on the wait list in Maryland right now, whose families are too poor to afford childcare. And that means that one or both of their parents cannot go work, cannot go pursue education training to make a better life for their families. This bill is about making sure that the neediest of those kids who are currently waiting to get into high-quality childcare have access to that. That includes several hundred homeless families that right now today are homeless and do not have access to childcare. That's what this bill is about, and I'll probably be voting green.
The delegate from the Eastern Shore.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Eastern Shore.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Last year, before we voted on the budget, the minority party offered an amendment that cut, I think it was at least $3 billion in last year's budget. And I will say none of those cuts affected the child care scholarship. And for me, the reason why is because we want to get these young single moms, single dads, young families who don't have a lot of them, we want to get them back to work. DLS used to come out with a book. It had about 30 or 40 pages of all these social safety net programs that the state of Maryland had offered. And these single moms and these single dads are taking advantage of a lot of these different programs. We want to get them off these programs. We want to get them back to work. We want them to be productive members of Maryland's communities and actually earn income so they can pay for their own bills, right? That's a conservative principle to me, to be quite honest. And I'm not going to come here, and say we should cut, $70 billion out of the budget, leave 10, and that's enough, that's enough to run government. We could do that potentially. I don't think that's productive. I don't think it's moving forward. I think we have to be more careful and more prudent on how and where we're spending our money. And I think helping these younger families in particular get back to work, I think it's a conservative principle, and I think it's a good idea. That's why I'm voting green on this bill.
Recognizing the delegate from Baltimore County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I wanted to speak to the general affordability principle. The idea that we're taking tax dollars from Marylanders, rejecting most people from the program, taking a giant chunk out to administer the program, and giving a smaller portion back to the people and saying, we're making child care more affordable, that's fantasy land. It would be more appropriate to lower taxes so that all people could have more of their own dollars to pay for these kind of goods and services. And I would urge the body to listen to the way we're talking about this now. We're at another budget cliff. As far as I remember, last year was a budget cliff where we had to raise hundreds of millions in taxes. This year is a budgetary cliff. I'm hearing next year is going to be a budgetary cliff where we're going to have to raise the sales tax 2%. And bills like this, programs like this are the reason why. We're still here raising hundreds of millions of dollars in new spending every single year. So I think what the middle class is actually looking for is less taxes so that affordability across the board is easier for the average person. But what we're really doing is we're routing the middle class, and that's why we're hemorrhaging residents from this state, and that's why I'll be a no today.
Recognizing the delegate from Montgomery County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm proud to be casting a green vote on this bill, and I just wanted to touch on a couple of points. And I am a relatively young dad. We've got one kid still in childcare, one is now in kindergarten, so we've also been living this. But I just wanted to address a couple of the points that have been raised. Unfortunately, childcare is unaffordable, according to the Department of Labor, in every state. Not just Maryland, in all 49 other states, because for those of you who are parents, and I see a lot of my colleagues shaking their heads, it is really expensive. It's really expensive because we want to make sure that, especially when we're talking about infants, we have the right ratio, right? We don't want to leave our infants in the care of anybody that's not qualified. We don't want to leave them in a situation where one person's caring for like 10 one-year-olds. It's really hard for anybody who's had to co-op in a classroom. We've got to do that in my kids' preschool, and they've got 12 kids, 12 3, 4-year-olds running around. It's really hard. So it's unaffordable because for people to take on this role, they don't do it for the money. They do it because they love children and they want to give back. But we want to make sure that they're paid appropriately. And for the most part, a lot of people in childcare are women of color. So we're really talking about making sure that folks who are choosing to take care of our most valuable resources are getting paid appropriately. But again, this is not unique to Maryland. This is a problem across the nation, something that frankly, when you listen to the folks in Washington, which some of us do or don't like to do, it's talked about by both parties. Fixing our nation's child care crisis so that we can affordably have a place for our children to spend their time, to be prepared for school, to get that leg up that so many of them need. So this is something, frankly, that this body has taken a huge step forward on for the past couple of years. We have had one of the largest growth in enrollment of any state in the nation because of the work of this body. Because of our fiscal situation, we're taking some very, very, very prudent steps to ensure the integrity of this program going forward, to ensure that the most vulnerable families in our state are able to get to work, are able to go to school. And I do just want to at last address one of the points that was raised earlier. So our child care scholarship program is part of the larger federal child care development block grant program, which does have a work requirement or a education requirement. So I know that was mentioned earlier. We are in full compliance with the federal program, so there is a work requirement, whether you agree or disagree with that. In order to get the large infusion of federal dollars that we get annually, we have a work requirement on this program. And for all those reasons, I will be a proud green vote on this bill. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Chair of the Committee on Ways and Means.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, one of the words that I hear the most on this floor, especially this legislative session, is affordability. And we know that when it comes to affordability, one of the areas of high cost for our Maryland families is childcare. And this is an issue that's about our economy. Childcare powers Maryland's economy when our families are able to go to work and have high quality providers who are taking care of their children. But they can't do that when childcare is out of reach. So, Madam Speaker, I want to thank you for your leadership on helping to make childcare more affordable and provide access and opportunity for Marylanders, because this bill in our package represents 3,700 children coming off of the wait list, colleagues. Those are children who are either currently in uncredentialed programs, low quality informal networks, or their parents are just staying home and unable to work because they do not have childcare access. This bill is fiscally responsible because it is equitable. We make sure that we are tying the parent income to what they pay into this program as well. And that is why this program is also affordable for the state. So colleagues, a green vote on this bill is a vote for affordability. It is a vote for making sure that 3,700 children in our state have access to a credentialed program. So I urge your green vote. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
To explain my vote, Madam Speaker.
Recognizing the delegate from Hartford County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
I was really, my ears perked up when I heard about the Department of Labor. So I actually pulled up on their website. They have a beautiful map. You should all go pull it up immediately. It shows the average cost of childcare by state. And in fact, it does not say that the entire country has problems with the cost of childcare. It doesn't say that at all. It shows deep blue areas, pockets of deep blue. The map is blue, not the political persuasion, although I think there's a correlation there. Around us, mostly just us. There's a little bit of Loudoun County. Oh, they also struggle because I'm sure they have great policies. But if you move over to West Virginia, it goes from an average of $23,000 or $24,000 per family to $8,500. So, no, the whole country, in fact, does not have trouble with this. We have trouble with it because we produce horrible policies that lead to it.
Recognizing the delegate from Baltimore City, then Baltimore County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. To explain my vote, I am just wanting to echo a lot of what we heard, but drill down on the fact that this is the economy behind the economy. If we do not have a strong child care economy, people will not be productive taxpayers, who are some of my favorite people, by the way. Now, I'm not one to quote the U.S. Chamber of Commerce with regularity. However, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce has noted that there is so much untapped economic potential in every state because of child care issues, and that lost money for these state economies can range from $100 million to $10 billion a year. So I don't believe that this is considered a very blue-leaning entity, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, but I do believe that they believe in green, and they can make more money if employees are reliable and have child care. So thank you for listening to me in this commercial, and I am very proud to make this green vote.
Recognizing the delegate from Baltimore County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. To explain my red vote, this is picking winners and losers. If we were serious about helping with child care, we'd give everyone a tax credit and let them pick their own child care, or let somebody stay home with their kids. But this program has a $25 to $50 million administrative fee attached to it. So if we really were serious about that, we wouldn't pick winners and losers. We would lower their taxes or give them a direct tax credit so they can pay for their own child care, and everybody gets it. Thank you.
Recognizing the Vice Chair of the committee, then the gentleman from Southern Maryland.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. To explain my green vote, I really just want to make a few key points. I've heard colleagues talking about fiscal cliffs, which aren't true. I've heard colleagues talking about excessive administrative costs. It's not true. What is true, we are picking winners and losers, Madam Speaker, and we are picking the 3,700 kids across this state and their families and those child care workers, and I'm proud to cast my green vote with them. Thank you.
Recognizing the gentleman from Southern Maryland.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You're welcome.
The gentleman from Baltimore really kind of covered part of what I'm going to say to explain my red vote for House Bill 849, namely that we could eliminate all taxes on electricity bills and people would keep a lot of their money. We could eliminate taxes on overtime and people would keep a lot of their money. We could eliminate taxes on tips and people would keep a lot more of their money. In fact, many of the people that will be using this program will be in those types of jobs in many cases and would be able to keep more of their own money. So the fact that you're passing a bill that not only has this massive fiscal note today, but has a massive fiscal note years from now, because you know it's going to grow, shake your head as you may, you know it's going to grow because it always does, means that you will be raising taxes by 2%, by 2 points, I should say, on sales tax. We know it's coming. And you're going to wait until right after the election to do it, and then you're going to say the same thing. I'm sorry, it's not empathy to take so much of people's money through taxation and then give it to others and say that you were such a good person. Just don't buy that. I think the better thing to do is let them keep their own money to begin with so that they can be self-sufficient. The fact that the program is growing is a signal of success. Not a signal of success, but a signal of failure. Thank you.
Recognizing the delegate from Anne Arundel.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. To explain my vote, I don't think anybody in here is going to argue the fact that child care gets expensive, and nobody's in here is going to argue that parents need to go to work. The question is, who solves the problem better? This body? Give me the list. What have we fixed? We haven't fixed anything. So our answer is, let's make the program bigger. I'm sorry. It is better to let people keep their own money. If you were to go and poll all these people we're helping and say, would you rather be in control of your own money and your own destiny, or do you think you should send it to Annapolis, where we take dollars and pay out dimes and continue to build more and more failed programs? It's not because you don't personally care, I know you do, but I'm telling you, to depend on the government to solve problems is insanity. Ronald Reagan said it best. Worst things you can ever hear. I'm from the government and I'm here to help. 40 years later, it's still ringing true. If you really cared about these children, if you really wanted to help, get out of the way. Instead of trying to fix everything, it's easy to throw a yay up there. It's easy to put a green vote up there when it's not your money and it's not your child. We need to really start to fix problems here instead of virtue signaling, and find out what the real problem is and help them fix it themselves so that they don't have to depend on this body. Let them grow. Give them independence, and they will flourish. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Madam Speaker,
Recognizing the delegate from Baltimore County.
explaining my green votes. Colleagues, as an educator, investing in early childhood is not just a compassionate policy. We're worried about the fiscal note. It is a smart fiscal policy. Many researchers, it is not anecdotes, a preschool and early childhood program estimate that either $4 to $13 return for every $1 invested when considering education, considering employment, health, and reduced incarceration cost. Research by Nobel Prize winning economist James Heckman shows that every dollar invested in early childhood education can return $4 to $16 back to society through higher earnings, stronger communities, and lower public costs. In other words, investing in children today build a workforce, taxpayers, and leaders for tomorrow. Madam Speaker, I'm proudly voting green on this bill.
The clerk will take the call. There being 123 votes in the affirmative and 13 votes in the negative, House Bill 849, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. The clerk will read the next bill, please.
House Bill 866, Work Group for the Deaf, Deafblind, and Hard of Hearing, extension.
House Bill number 866 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk would take the call. There being 130 votes in the affirmative and 5 votes in the negative, House Bill number 866, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed.
Madam Speaker.
Vote change?
Yes, ma'am. I'd like
Go
to
ahead.
change my vote to aye on HB 804.
Any other vote change? Recognizing the gentleman from Southern Maryland.
The last bill, HB 866, to green. Thank you.
And recognizing the lady from Frederick.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. 809 to no, please vote.
Recognizing the gentleman from Southern Maryland.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. 866 to green.
Any other vote change? All right. Would the Speaker Pro Tem please come up?
Okay. That ends the work at the desk. Committee announcements. Appropriations.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Appropriations Committee, we're going to do a quick turnaround, but the good news is the Vice Chair has bought lunch for us in the committee room, and we're going to start at 1:35. Bill hearings 1:35.
Economic matters.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. House Economic Matters will meet at 1:45 for a voting session, followed by 2:15 bill hearings. Please listen out for subcommittee meetings.
Environment and Transportation.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The House Environment and Transportation Committee will meet at 1:45 for bill hearings.
Government, Labor, and Elections.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. GLE will meet at 1:35 for bill hearings.
Health.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Health Committee will meet at 2:15 for bill hearings. Please listen for subcommittee announcements.
Judiciary.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Judiciary Committee will be meeting for bill hearings at 2 p.m. You got to buy your own lunch.
Tough but fair. Ways and Means.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Ways and Means Committee will meet at 1:30 p.m. for bill hearings. 1:30 p.m. Thank you.
Subcommittee announcements. Gentleman from Montgomery County.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Energy Subcommittee will meet after bill hearings today, and a big thank you for our long meeting last night. More to come.
Delegate from Anne Arundel County.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Business Reg Subcommittee will meet immediately following bill hearings in ECM today.
Delegate from Prince George's in Anne Arundel County.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Local Government Subcommittee will meet, of GLE will meet 15 minutes after full committee today. Thank you.
Delegate from Baltimore City. Yeah.
The Health Occupation Subcommittee will meet 20 minutes after we leave the floor by Zoom.
Delegate from Howard County.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Agriculture and Aquaculture Committee of ENT will meet after bill hearings. Listen up for announcements. Thank you.
Delegate from Frederick County.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Election Law Subcommittee of Government, Labor, and Elections is going to be meeting 30 minutes after committee or directly after the Local Government Subcommittee. Thank you.
Delegate from Baltimore County.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Environment Subcommittee will meet a few minutes after the Agriculture Subcommittee has completed its meeting today.
Delegate from Charles County.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Gaming Subcommittee will meet at 3:30 via Zoom. 3:30.
Delegate from Baltimore City.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Early Childhood and Special Education Subcommittee will meet immediately following the Gaming Committee.
Another delegate from Baltimore City.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Housing and Real Property Subcommittee will be meeting after committee this afternoon. Check your emails for information.
Delegate from Harford County.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Pharmaceutical Subcommittee will meet 45 minutes after the floor.
Any more subcommittee announcements?
Mr. Speaker, Pro Tem.
Yes.
Vote change.
All right. Delegate from Baltimore County.
Thank you. House Bill 866 to yay.
Another delegate from Baltimore County.
866 to yay, please.
All right. Anybody else? All right. Delegation announcements. Oh, I'm sorry. All right. Delegation announcements. Caucus announcements.
Speaker.
Legislative Black Caucus.
Legislative Black Caucus, reminder to members, 8:30 members meeting, 8:50 open meeting. Thank you. Tomorrow.
Jewish Caucus.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just first want to thank everybody that participated in the Shadow Day yesterday. We had 50 students. Had a really wonderful time, so thank you for everybody who participated. And then just want to re-up the invitation that you and your staff should have all received. Tomorrow in the Rotunda at 6 o'clock with the State House Trust, we are honoring the 200th anniversary of the passage of the Jew Bill, which was the constitutional amendment that was passed in 1826 that allowed Jews in the state of Maryland to hold public office. You all should have received an invitation. Please let us know if you did not, but hope to see you all tomorrow at, again, 6 o'clock in the Rotunda. There's going to be a special exhibition put on by the state archivist of material from the passage of the bill. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
The Irish Caucus.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Tonight's the night for the Irish Caucus celebration. The doors open at 5:30, and the program will be at about 8 o'clock. Hope to see everyone there.
Muslim Caucus.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just a reminder, colleagues, today the Maryland Legislative Muslim Caucus as well as the Women Caucus is hosting a iftar dinner tonight in the House Building, room 180 at 7 o'clock. Thank you.
Any further caucus announcements? All right, we'll have our Women's History moment and the delegate from Montgomery County.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Colleagues, I will make this brief and wholesome. Many of the women on this floor are simply natural-born leaders. Though we may have stepped into the arena later in life, so many of us learned that we could even be considered leaders when we were just little girls. Whether you were a daisy, a brownie, a junior, a cadet, or the very prestigious senior, if you were a Girl Scout even for a day, the 3 C's have probably stuck with you in one way or another. Courage, confidence, and character. That is what we learned. And those principles are certainly the foundation of the work that we do in this body. For today's Women's History Moment, I'd like to honor that on this week in 1928, the first Girl Scout troop in Baltimore City was founded. Yes, that's right. You can clap for that. For the past century, Maryland's Girl Scouts have been stepping up to serve our communities. Just last year, they gave over 16,000 hours of service. Our Girl Scouts benefit from exploring our natural heritage through a partnership with our state parks that is called, quite literally, Girl Scouts Love State Parks, and through specialized programs like the one that maintains bonds between girls and their incarcerated mothers. If you were ever a Girl Scout, you have something in common with Michelle Obama, Condoleezza Rice, Hillary Clinton, Dolores Huerta, Taylor Swift, Sandra Day O'Connor, Sally Ride, Ginny Rometty, Martha Stewart, Lucille Ball, and Venus Williams, and probably Serena Chu. That's how it works. In fact, 57% of the women currently in the U.S. House of Representatives are Girl Scout alums. 71% of all female U.S. senators are former Girl Scouts. Now, unfortunately, there's only 55 women leading Fortune 500 companies, but of those, more than 8 were Girl Scouts. Half of all female astronauts were former Girl Scouts. And every single woman who has served as Secretary of State as our country was a Girl Scout. Studies indicate that Girl Scout alums are more likely to have a college degree and higher household income compared to non-alums. And so you might have guessed it, that the cookie sales are more than just Thin Mints and Caramel Delights. And so I'd like to invite all of the former Girl Scouts who are still here to join me in standing. We are just a small portion of the 50 million Girl Scouts worldwide. So please keep up. We're going to do something special here. This is the interactive component of this. So if you would stand up and give me the 3 fingers. It's probably been a few decades, so I'll recite it for you. You don't have to mouth it or anything. We will recite as lady lawmakers probably the first law we ever had to learn by heart, the Girl Scout law. And if you listen closely, whether or not you were ever a Girl Scout, these words ring true for what we do today. I will do my best to be honest and fair, friendly and helpful, considerate and caring, courageous and strong, and responsible for what I say and do. And 2, respect myself and others, respect authority, use resources wisely, make the world a better place, and to be a sister to every Girl Scout. Thank you, ladies. It is an honor to continue serving with you.
Personal or guest
Mr.
announcements?
Speaker.
Mr. Speaker.
The delegate from Baltimore City.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Permission to use the delegate's name.
Permission granted.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On behalf of Delegate Embry and I, we'd like to welcome, I don't know if they're still on the floor, Develop Her, which is an organization that is an innovative program dedicated to educating and empowering women to be real estate developers who combat blight and champion community-centered projects by equipping women with the skills and tools to lead. They are expanding the pipeline of developers building with purpose. Today in Annapolis, students are learning how development goes beyond bricks and mortar. It means collaborating with legislative leaders and elected officials. Developer is not only revitalizing Baltimore's neighborhoods, but ensuring women are included in shaping Baltimore's future. Please welcome them to Annapolis.
Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker.
Delegate from Baltimore City.
Point of personal privilege. I rise to share with the body the sad news that Mickey Steinberg, former president of the state senate, passed away today. And somewhat historically ironic, on the day before or era of the Jubilee celebration, when Mickey Steinberg was president of the state senate, a Jew, Ben Cardin was Speaker of the House in my first term 40-some years ago. Mickey was also lieutenant governor, and it's my understanding that when the bill authorizing the construction of Camden Yards was in trouble, it wasn't dead, as the saying used to be down here, but it was in trouble. It was Mickey who came up with the idea of financing it with lottery revenues. And final note, when I was first elected, I went to some small event. Mickey was there, and he said to me, "You're doing the right thing, because if you're visible all the time, you don't have to break your back in an election year." And 40-some years later, I'm still following his advice. He was a great legislator and a great human being. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Speaker.
Delegate in the back from Anne Arundel County.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Colleagues, please join me in welcoming a constituent from my district, Justin Palmer, whose service, let me get to it, whose service and sacrifice exemplify the very best of our nation. In the wake of the attacks on September 11, 2001, Justin answered the call to serve by enlisting in the United States Marine Corps 24 years ago today. He later deployed to Iraq as an infantryman, where he served with extraordinary courage. Justin's relentless bravery and heroism were described by his commanding officer as an inspiration, and I want to read you his story. Justin and my team were the only Marines not caught in the alleyway. I, along with 2 other Marines, sought cover by simply stepping left out of the field of fire. Justin took a different route. This madman decided to drop to the ground, take aim with his M249 light machine gun. I screamed at Justin to get out of the enemy field of fire. His response, as rounds kicked dirt into his face, was a level of disobedient profanity too inappropriate for even Facebook. Justin stayed put, endangering his own life, and waited for his brothers to clear the alleyway. Once the alleyway was clear of our Marines, Justin opened fire on an insurgent with an RPK machine gun, hitting him, effectively removing the initiative away from the enemy. Soon after, I ordered my Overwatch to cover the withdrawal of the rest of our squad seeking safety in the carports. Some of our Marines were alone. On our way to the roof, we were met with our sniper attachment coming down in a hurry. They told us not to go topside because it was too hot, too much enemy fire, and we would be too exposed with no cover. This gave me hesitation, but not Justin. Justin rushed up to the rooftop with me tailing him. There we spent what seemed like an eternity holding down the area until the reinforcements arrived. Any insurgent who lingered near our Marines received an unwelcome burst of machine gun fire, courtesy of Justin Palmer. For his actions that day, I nominated Justin for a Navy Achievement Medal with Valor device. The command never followed through with the award, and Justin went unrecognized. Rarely does a day go by when I do not think of that ambush. The heroism and bravery of Justin Palmer certainly seized the initiative away from the enemy and enabled a fractured squad to regroup, tend to their wounded. Justin is therefore firmly in my memory as one of the many unrecognized heroes of Ramadi. Justin certainly wasn't alone in his heroism. There were many such instances among Gulf Company Marines, instances that should have ended in disaster if not for the heroism and courage of riflemen willing to risk their lives for the sake of their brothers, most of which went unrecognized and are remembered by only the Marines who were there. I tell this story having not spoken to Justin in roughly 20 years, simply to let him know his courage is not forgotten and still inspires me to this day. That was emailed to me from his fire team leader. For a lifetime spent serving his country, his community, and his fellow citizens, he deserves to be recognized and honored. So colleagues, join me in thanking Justin for his service and express our deepest gratitude for his commitment, his sacrifice, and his unwavering devotion to our country. Today, a flag is being flown over this great capital in his honor. Please join me in thanking Justin Palmer.
And with a hoorah. Hoorah! Say it in the microphone.
For any member, and especially members of the Veterans Caucus, if you would like to join Justin and I and his family at the steps right outside of the chamber, we'll be there for a photo. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Delegate from Baltimore County.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I have probably hundreds of friends, but on my right hand I can count one that's up in the gallery, Mr. Jim DeFrancisco. He's the president founder of Race for Life, and his executive vice president, Bianca Smith. They're tremendous, tremendous families and people. I like for them to be recognized today. God bless you, Jim. What a wonderful man. Wonderful man.
Delegate from Western Maryland.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On behalf of my colleagues from both Frederick and Washington County, I'd like to recognize two gentlemen. Unfortunately, they had to leave a little bit ago that were in the gallery earlier. These gentlemen worked tirelessly to promote business and community advancement in both of our counties and throughout this great state of Maryland. Permission to use a former delegate's name.
Granted.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First, I'd like to recognize former delegate Rick Weldon, who proudly served in this House in what was then District 3B, spanning both Frederick and Washington counties from 2003 to 2009, and is currently the president and CEO of the Frederick County Chamber of Commerce. And along with him today was his colleague, the president and CEO of the Washington County Chamber of Commerce, Paul Fry. I just wanted to ensure they were both recognized for all the hard work they do each and every day and for joining us for a good portion of this morning. Thank you.
Delegate from Prince George's County.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Body, permission to use the delegates' names?
Granted.
Body, I ask you join myself, Delegate Harrison, and Delegate Coley in wishing our Senator Joanne C. Benson a very happy birthday. On this day in 1941, she was born in Roanoke, Virginia. She has honorably served this state for over 35 years. Please continue to keep her in your prayers as she ends out her legacy in her career. And I just want to say on a personal note, it was an honor to continue her legacy in this body. When I was first elected, I look forward to her healthy retirement. So please give her a big virtual hug. And as she always likes to say, we love her, a bushel and a peck and a hug around the neck. Happy birthday, Senator Benson.
Delegate from Prince George's County.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm not sure if they're still here, but colleagues, Educational Systems Federal Credit Union has proudly served the education community since 1955, supporting educators, students, and their families through accessible financial solutions and resources that promote financial wellness and stability. Under the leadership of President and CEO Geraldo Smith, Educational Federal Credit Union, Educational Systems Federal Credit Union has continued to grow and strengthen its impact, surpassing $1 billion in assets while remaining dedicated to the financial well-being of the community it serves. Please join me in recognizing Educational Systems Federal Credit Union for nearly 7 decades of service to the education community and its continued commitment to empowering individuals and families through financial wellness and opportunity. I don't know if they're here or not, but they were here for a while. So, they're still here? I can't see behind me, so thank you very much.
All right. The delegate from Anne Arundel County.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So members, you all have one of these somewhere near your desk, and perhaps you took notes on it on the back, but the real purpose is to let you know that the Speaker Society annual reception will be held on March 26th at 12 p.m. It will be held in the House of Delegates room 170 and 180. The price is noted. You can purchase your ticket right now, today, by following the instructions here. If anyone has any questions on how to do that, feel free to contact me. RSVP by March 20th, which is next Friday. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, we don't know if the ice cream's still outside. Quorum call.
Mr. Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their presence? The clerk will take the call. There being 125 members present, the House is still in session. To recognize the majority leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that the House stands adjourned until Thursday, March 12th at 10 a.m., legislative date February 28th.